I'm playing Marvel Legends. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 276, Reversal of the Battle. Did Marfa use the Soulfire Talisman this time? Of course not. Although the Soulfire Talisman skill has reached level 3, it has been enhanced by the modified mental warfare method, which has changed it from a single target output skill to a group damage skill. But the Soulfire Talisman, which has not yet been enhanced, is obviously not good enough to deal with the Destroyer and Odin's Divine Projection. As the main damage skill of the Taoist in the early and middle stages, it is really pitiful to fall into such an embarrassing situation. Marfa has long had the idea of strengthening the Soulfire Talisman and some full-level skills, but unfortunately, those imagined strengthening materials are not so easy to get. For example, the Soul Gem is currently located on the planet Vormir. Marfa is very clear about this. Judging from the timeline, even Gamora, who first discovered the Soul Gem, may not have discovered its location yet. Looking at the entire universe, except for a few special beings, the only people who know about this are probably Chang Long, the Red Skull, John Schmidt, the Ancient One, and Marfa himself. But even with clear intelligence and the Space Gem, can Marfa get the Soul Gem? Obviously impossible. To obtain the Soul Gem, a sacrifice ceremony must be performed, exchanging souls for souls. Only by sacrificing relatives or friends that you care about can you get the Soul Gem. And for Marfa, whether it is Gwen, Toby, or the Maximoff family, these are the ties that Marfa cannot give up. If you want to get the Soul Gem by sacrificing them, Marfa would rather wait for a while and snatch it from others. Isn't it fragrant? The time is not right. Even if Marfa wants to use those strengthening materials, it is beyond his ability. So if it is not the Soulfire Talisman, what will it be? There is no doubt that there is no other way except the magic spell. Nowadays, the modified magic spell can form a forbidden magic field within a certain range, and all magic power will be completely imprisoned in the field. And Odin's power, to put it bluntly, is essentially nothing more than an existence similar to magic. As long as the Destroyer is imprisoned, there is no doubt that Odin will lose the power to supply the Destroyer, and similarly, he will also lose the power to control the Destroyer. Without Odin's power, the Destroyer will undoubtedly become a pile of materials with nothing on the surface, just like the chains that imprisoned Hela. Trapped spell. As Marfa used her skills, the amulet immediately shot out from Marfa's Wuji stick, and then turned into countless stars, covering the upper body of the Destroyer. When the energy contained in the starlight array eyes overflowed, the huge upper body of the Destroyer immediately became like a deflated ball and began to weaken rapidly. In just a blink of an eye, the upper body of the Destroyer was only the size of a normal person. This is. Seeing the scene in front of her, Hela's eyes were immediately shining. Isn't this the trick that unlocked the imprisonment seal for herself? It can actually be used like this. Doesn't that mean that if Marfa used this trick on her, she would be wet again like before, and let him control her? Hela obviously imagined some scenes that were not suitable for children. In just a short moment, her face was flushed and she seemed to be shaking on the spot. If he really treats me like this, should I not resist? Or not resist much? Did the magazine I read a few days ago say that men like to be reluctant but willing the most? Hela's thoughts have undoubtedly reached the edge of danger. If Odin knew about it, there is no doubt that Odin would definitely pat his butt and leave. And then leave a sentence like this. Hela, the man has affected your speed of drawing the sword. You are no longer a threat. Now you are not worthy of being my enemy. Of course, Odin had no way of knowing Hela's psychological activities. However, Odin was also very embarrassed now. If he came in person, let alone whether Marfa's spell of confinement could resist Odin's divine power, it would not be difficult for Odin's physical strength to break through the spell of confinement. After all, even if the spell of confinement has evolved into a forbidden magic field, it will not have any effect on physical attacks. With Odin's physique of the Aesir, which has reached its peak, it is easy to break through the restrictions of Marfa's spell of confinement. But now, in the final analysis, it is just a projection of divine power. A drone without energy, even if it is equipped with heavy weapons, what can it do? It is just a toy. But does Odin really have no way out? If you really think so, you are underestimating the king of the gods. Sure enough, Seeing that the upper body of the destroyer has turned into its original form and lost the power to fight again, Gungnir was immediately unhappy. His figure was like lightning, like a stream of light, flashing and passing, and easily penetrated the forbidden magic field from the periphery of the spell of confinement. Without the restriction of the forbidden magic field, Odin's power immediately poured into the upper body of the destroyer again. At this moment, the dark armor expanded rapidly like a KFC with hormones. In less than 3 breaths, it was restored to its original state. Good guy. This is all possible. This time it was Marfa's turn to be dumbfounded. He originally thought that by restricting the destroyer with a magic spell, he could easily defeat Odin's divine power projection, but he didn't expect that this would be the result. Ha ha ha. I understand. I finally understand. It turns out that the reason why Hela was able to escape from the land of death was all your masterpiece. I'm afraid you blocked the divine power on the chain with that trick just now. As soon as the destroyer recovered, he immediately raised a gun in one hand and roared at Marfa angrily. The divine flame in his mask was even more substantial. Obviously, this time, Odin was really serious. If the previous fight against Marfa was just because the Ancient One stopped him from killing Hela, and Marfa was just the Ancient One's helper. Now that he knew that Hela was able to escape the land of death mainly because of the Midgardian in front of him, Odin's target was undoubtedly Marfa. Poison. Poison. Red. Poison. Green. Marfa immediately threw the habitual poison spell 3 times at the destroyer. However, it was obvious that the destroyer was not a living being. In addition to the red poison reducing the destroyer's defense to a certain extent, neither the green poison nor the invincible skill of jumping thinness had any effect on the destroyer. Soulfire Talisman. Boom. The sound of the explosion sounded, but could the Soulfire Talisman, which was almost as powerful as the rocket, hurt the destroyer or Gungnir? Obviously not. Infinite Key. As the strongest amplification skill of the Taoist priest, the Infinite Key can greatly enhance the Taoist priest's Taoist attributes, thereby achieving the effect of amplifying the power of the skill. Although it was only a few seconds, it was enough for Marfa to use 3 or 4 Soulfire Talismans. As the skill of Wuji's Hanki was used, a faint Taoist key instantly permeated Marfa's body. Combined with Marfa's Taoist robe, he looked like a Taoist at first glance. But even so, it was still far from enough to hurt the destroyer. Obviously, Marfa's previous advantage, relying on the surprise attack and the special skills and moves, was difficult to achieve the effect of a surprise victory as the battle continued. There is no doubt that Marfa's ability flaws were also exposed. Chapter 277 The Third Princess Loki. What are the advantages of Marfa? There is no doubt that it is the breadth of strength. The so-called breadth of strength refers to the comprehensiveness of ability. In the original setting of the legend, the Taoist profession is a supporting profession. It can be invisible, summon, add blood, output, gain, and weaken. The comprehensiveness of its ability can be said to be quite wide. However, in terms of defense, the Taoist priest is not as good as the warrior, and in terms of damage, the Taoist priest is not as good as the mage. In terms of upgrade speed, it is far inferior to the mage who hits a large area with one move and the warrior who opens half a month against a monster group. This undoubtedly makes Marfa's strength height unable to go up. To put it bluntly, it is more than enough to save life, but insufficient output. Even though Marfa's strength has exploded due to the enhancement of skills, once facing special existences like Odin or the giant ape Jinbing, Marfa's shortcomings are difficult not to be exposed. Could it be that I have to rely on the space gate to defeat Odin again? But the destroyer is so huge that my space gate may not be able to cause a devastating blow to it. What's more, what's in front of me is just the projection of Odin's divine power. Even if the destroyer is cut in half, as long as there is Odin's divine power, I'm afraid it can be restored quickly. The scene fell into embarrassment for a while. With a space gem and invisibility, Marfa can easily avoid the destroyer's attack. And the destroyer? He is not afraid of Marfa's attack at all. You want to fight? Fight. If I, Odin, frown, I will lose. Marfa has thought about using the trapping spell again. However, affected by the strength of the Taoist magic, like before, encircling half of the destroyer's body is already Marfa's limit. To encircle the entire destroyer, but Marfa can't do it now. But don't forget that Marfa is not fighting alone. While Marfa and Odin were confronting each other, Hela had already taken advantage of everyone's attention being focused on the main battlefield between Marfa and Odin and quietly moved behind Loki. Slap. The ridge of the sword of the night sky sword was like a ruler used by teachers to discipline students in the old days, and it slapped Loki in the face. The slap was so loud that it was no less than Gungnir's slap on the ground. Due to the time travel of the Ancient One, Hela still had 80% of her divine power at this time, and even because of the fight between Marfa and Odin, Hela had recovered a little. So here comes the question. When Hela had more than 80% of her divine power in her body, the ridge of the sword of the night sky sword in her hand slapped Loki's face at a speed of per second. How much psychological shadow area did Loki have? But when Hela slapped him, Loki fell to the ground like a cannonball. That was really the kind that could not be dug out. In the human-shaped pit, Loki covered his almost deformed cheek, and he felt terrible. Grievances, complaints, malice, unwillingness, anger. All kinds of emotions were reflected on Loki's twisted face. His expression was so rich that even if you searched for the best actor and actress on the entire earth, I'm afraid no one could reproduce it. I can't beat her, I can't beat her, I can't beat her at all. We are both children of the Lord of the God realm. Why is there such a big gap in strength between me and Hela? In a sense, I am not even as good as those noble frost giants in Jotunheim. Luffy, are you sure I am your biological child? You didn't adopt me, did you? Loki doubted in his heart. However, before he could think about it, a black and green, extremely hot figure had already stepped on him. Wait. We are in the same group, aren't we? It's not what you think. I was forced to do this. It's all Odin and Laufey. They have been colluding for a long time. I was sent here to fight you. I was forced to do it. It was a helpless act. Loki panicked. If it was Thor who stepped on him at this time, Loki had 1,000 ways to make Thor fall in love with him completely after a quarter of an incense stick. Ahem, let him go. Lying and cheating are as easy as eating and drinking for Loki, the god of trickery. You should do this, and I should die. There was once a sincere trust in front of me, but I didn't cherish it. When I lost it, I regretted it. This is the most painful thing in the world. If God can give me another chance, I will say 3 words to you and Thor, I. But before Loki could finish, Hela's long sword had already cut Loki's neck, and the trickling blood instantly dyed Loki's collar red. Exclamation mark. It didn't work. Hela is not Thor. This trick doesn't work. Loki said in anger. You brought the destroyer. Don't tell me you don't know its weakness. Hela said coldly. Needless to say, the coldness in her eyes made Loki, the frost giant, feel a chill on his back. I said I'm on your side. How could I betray you? Even if you don't ask me, I will find a way to tell you. Let me tell you, Thor and I grew up wearing the same pants. The relationship between us is that you are in me and I am in you. Look, my weapons are all taken from Thor's hammer. Loki said with a playful smile. However, Hela's face became even gloomier. Are you stalling for time? I'll count to 3. If you don't tell me, you'll never tell me again in your life. At this time, Hela's mind was full of Marfa's danger. How could she listen to Loki's nagging? Oh no, have I been discovered? As expected of Hela, it seems that there is really no hope for a comeback this time. Loki thought to himself. 3, 2, 1. That's right, there was no semicolon, no comma, and no ellipsis. Hela actually counted 3 times at an extremely fast speed without any pause. Loki, Greek letter sigma, Cyrillic letter dec, I suspect you are messing with me? How can you count like that? It's unethical. However, Hela didn't care about Loki's roar in his heart, and immediately raised the sword of the night sky and chopped it towards Loki's head. Gungnir, it's Gungnir. Gungnir is the controller of the destroyer. As long as Gungnir is imprisoned, the destroyer will cut off the source of divine power, and Odin will not be able to inject divine power into it. Loki also spoke at an extremely fast speed. God knows how he said so many words at once without taking a breath. Coward, trash, you don't deserve to be a man. In Hela's opinion, a real man should be like Marfa, who would fight Odin for himself even if he was not as strong as him. This was his way of proving his feelings to her. It was also because of this that Hela had no intention of participating in the fight between the two. This was a respect for her man, and it also showed that she accepted Marfa's confession. As for Loki, Hela didn't want to kill him. With a long sword, Loki confirmed his identity as the third princess. Hela's idea was very simple. Since Odin tried every means to consolidate his royal power, even persecuting himself and Thor, the only 2 heirs, then it was naturally impossible for him and Thor to go back to be the king of the Aesir with a shameless face. If possible, Hela even wanted to destroy Asgard directly and let the Aesir become the history of the universe. However, as it stands now, it is obviously not easy to do this. According to Odin's age, it is almost time for him to die, so the succession of the new king is the general trend. Since neither he nor Thor is king, there is no doubt that the king of Asgard will fall on this despicable frost giant in front of him. Instead of killing him and letting Odin choose a stepson from the Aesir, it is better to cut off Loki's treasure with a sword. Frost giants are hermaphrodites. The difference between men and women is nothing more than the appearance of men or women. P.S. This is the setting added by the lobster himself, so just force the explanation. After all, you haven't seen Loki's biological mother, right? As for the female Loki Sylvie, who knows if she is a big D cute girl, even some frost giants can reproduce on their own. Without a treasure, Loki will undoubtedly become a female. At that time, the queen of Asgard Loki ascends the throne. Isn't it a joke? And wouldn't Odin lose face? Would the entire Aesir clan become the laughingstock of the Nine Realms? Of course, there are more benefits to doing this. After all, the frost giant in front of him has a childhood sweetheart relationship with Thor. If he kills him, there is no guarantee that Thor will not have a rift with him because of this. And his previous betrayal was real, and Hela would not let him go just like that. What is the greatest punishment for a man? It is undoubtedly to make him lose his treasure. In this way, Odin can be disgusted, the relationship between the siblings can be maintained, and even Loki can be punished. Kill 3 birds with 1 stone. Perfect. Ah! The screams resounded through the world. Hela's sword was just right, not a centimeter more or less, and the wound was neat and flat, as if it was natural. The exquisiteness of her technique and the sharpness of her attack made Dongfang Bubei ashamed. From now on, there will be no Loki in the world, only Luo Bukwang. Chapter 278 Seriously injured. Without his treasure, Loki's body balance was immediately broken, and estrogen began to be secreted in large quantities. His facial features were gradually changing towards refinement at a slow speed. His skin became whiter, tenderer, and smoother. His vocal cords also changed at the same time, and even the 2 strong pectoralis major muscles on his chest began to be gradually replaced by fat. If this trend continues, it will probably not take too long for Loki's appearance to become exactly the same as Sylvie. Of course, Loki certainly didn't notice all this. The intense pain almost made Loki faint. If it weren't for the frost giant's strong physique and mental will, it would not be impossible for him to die directly from the pain. Lying alone in the human-shaped pit, Loki's eyes were full of tears and resentment. Although it was only 2 tails of meat, it undoubtedly hurt the pride in his heart. What did I do wrong? Since I was a child, my father has always favored Thor. Well, I was picked up, so I don't ask for so much. At least my mother still loves me. Hela has the sword of the night sky, Thor has Mjolnir, and even that bastard has a shield. What about me? Hela has the army of the dead, Thor has the 4 warriors of Asgard. What about me? Since Loki gave birth to me, why didn't he go to Asgard to find me for more than 1,000 years? Now even the last dignity has been destroyed by Hela. The more he thought about it, the more aggrieved Loki felt. He didn't do anything, but ended up like this. For a while, Loki had the will to die. And the initiator of all this, Hela, had already arrived at the main battlefield. Marfa, it's Gungnir. Gungnir is the remote control and the divine power converter. As long as Gungnir is attacked, the destroyer will be affected. Knowing the weakness of the destroyer, Hela naturally ran to tell Marfa immediately. What? Elbow out? Married daughter, spilled water. On one side is the ghost father who has imprisoned her for thousands of years, and on the other side is the male Midgardian who fights desperately for her. Are the 2 comparable? Remote control? Transmitter. Hearing these 2 terms from Hela, Marfa felt her eyes twitch, and her 3 views were overturned. A mythical goddess talks to her about the remote control? What has Hela been watching recently? However, Marfa also understood what Hela meant, and immediately gave up the plan to attack the destroyer and turned her eyes to Gungnir. Gungnir, also known as the Spear of Odin, is the symbol of the kingship of Asgard and the supreme artifact that has accompanied Odin in thousands of years of wars. It can be big or small, long or short, thick or thin, and it can also amplify Odin's divine power, so as to be used as a long-range weapon to emit energy rays. Not to mention the long distance, Just the scene of easily penetrating the destroyer can reflect the power of Gungnir. How do I fight this thing? Marfa thought to himself. He looked at the Wuji stick in his hand, and then at the golden spear on the opposite side. It seems that only the cutting power of the space gate may still be able to fight. But the cutting of the space gate not only needs to maintain the space gate, but also needs to let Gungnir pass through the space gate at the right time. With the experience of tricking the destroyer before, it is obvious that Odin will not be fooled easily again. The most important thing is that compared with a destroyer, Odin's spear is obviously more flexible and extremely fast. In this case, let alone whether the space cutting can destroy Gungnir, it is not an easy task to cut Gungnir with this trick. In this case, trapping spell. With his mind racing, Marfa used the cover of invisibility to cast the trapping spell on Odin's spear again, trying to restrict Gungnir for a moment with a forbidden magic field. As long as Odin loses remote control, Gungnir will be just an ownerless artifact. The amulet shot out, and when it hit Gungnir, it immediately turned into countless stars, wrapping it in it. Seeing that the array nodes were about to connect to each other to form a forbidden magic field, Gungnir was shining with golden light, like a long rainbow, and disappeared into the forbidden magic field. Boom. It's over. Because of the previous attack, Marfa had already exposed his position. It was too late to dodge and use invisibility at this time. Mirror space. Seeing that Gungnir was about to penetrate Marfa, a sound like glass breaking was heard. Gungnir disappeared from everyone's sight. There is no doubt that at the critical moment, Marfa had no time to care about the ability of the mirror space and was exposed to the Ancient One. Although this move came from the system, it was indeed Kamartaj's unique skill. In a sense, studying privately without the consent of the Ancient One was of course a provocation to the Ancient One. It is with this idea that Marfa has always tried not to use this trick unless it is necessary. After all, you never know whether the Ancient One is watching you in the mirror space when you are doing something. However, Marfa underestimated the Ancient One's magnanimity. Seeing Marfa use the advanced space magic of Kamartaj, the mirror space, the Ancient One did not look angry at all, but was surprised and stunned. The magic of Kamartaj requires talent, and this talent is divided into three aspects. First, people who learn Kamartaj magic must have strong mental power and knowledge reserves. The typical representative figure is Tony Stark today. As a Taoist who has refined his mental power and has experienced 2 lifetimes of student life, Marfa naturally meets the requirements. Second, since it is magic, it naturally requires a certain talent for casting and learning magic. In this regard, the best one is naturally Stephen Strange in the original plot. Marfa, who has the blood of Natalia, is of course fully qualified. The third, which is the most important and basic, that is to gain the recognition of Vishanti. The mages of Kamartaj do not cultivate magic power themselves, but borrow magic power from Vishanti through meditation communication. When he first met Marfa, Ancient One had already seen that Marfa was not favored by Vishanti, so Vishanti would never lend magic power to Marfa. It is for this reason that when he saw Marfa use the mirror space ability, Ancient One was so surprised and unbelievable. Little did he know that Marfa's mirror space came from the system reward, and it consumed Marfa's own blue, and it did not need to be related to Vishanti at all. Sure enough, with the disappearance of Gungnir, the destroyer immediately withered. Without Gungnir as a divine power transfer station, the destroyer could not receive the divine power from Odin at all. But is that the end of the matter? Obviously not. The mirror space is a semi-independent dimensional space attached to the main space. In the mirror space, no action can affect the real world. But don't forget that Odin also has the ability to open up a similar space, otherwise where would Hela's territory, the land of death, come from? That is when everyone thought that Marfa had won, and even Marfa himself relaxed. Crash! As the sound of glass shattering sounded again, Gungnir suddenly appeared in front of Marfa. No. XN. Accompanied by a burst of shouts from the crowd. But with a puff, Gungnir had passed through Marfa's body. The next second, the scarlet light on Wanda's body exploded immediately. In just a moment, the whole world seemed to be stained with the touch of red. Then, a flash of lightning followed closely. Who else could it be but Pietro? Obviously Pietro had turned on the lightning mode. However, the third person to explode was not Ancient One or Tony Stark, but Hela, who was stunned by the scene in front of her. In an instant, scarlet, blue and black divided the world into 3 parts, illuminating the entire New York. Chapter 279 Marfa's team. Marfa was able to defeat the destroyer easily before, which was completely reasonable in the eyes of Wanda, Pietro and others. After all, in their eyes, Marfa was almost invincible. However, as the battle continued, although Marfa fell into disadvantage, he was still able to remain undefeated with his strange skills. This made Wanda and others who originally planned to help no longer have the idea of intervening. After all, although his strength was not bad, he rarely trained with Marfa, so he could not achieve a good effect in cooperation. If he accidentally injured friendly forces, wouldn't it have a counterproductive effect? Marfa is a special case, and everyone who is familiar with him knows this. I haven't seen him train, but every once in a while, new abilities will emerge in an endless stream. Over time, no one knows what level of strength he has reached, and it is difficult to cooperate with him. Just like the previous fight against Kingpin, it seemed that everyone cooperated well, but they all fought very uncomfortably. In order to maintain cooperation, it is quite good to be able to exert 70% to 80% of one's strength 1 plus 1, but it can only achieve an effect of 1.5. Is this considered cooperation? Instead of this, with so many enemies on the field, why don't they pick some and fight each other? At least 1 plus 1 can equal 2, right? But the premise of all this is that Marfa can ensure that she is not hurt and can hold the destroyer in the front. Now, Marfa has been pierced, what else can be said? He is his own brother, not picked up. Unlike Loki. In grief and anger, what cost performance is still concerned about, anyway, find a way to save Marfa first. Seeing that Gungnir was about to slash at Marfa again, Wanda took the lead. But the scarlet chaos magic swept towards the golden spear like layers of waves. If one wave doesn't work, then 2 waves. If 2 waves don't work, then 4 waves. In line with the principle that the incense of the Maximoff family cannot be broken, Wanda in the burst state is simply crazy output without counting the consumption of magic power. Although he just stood there, dancing with his hands, his magic power should not be underestimated. For a moment, Gungnir was trapped in a quagmire and had difficulty walking. How is this possible? A mere Midgardian has such a powerful strength? Through the destroyer, Odin was obviously shocked by Wanda's strength. You know, because of the blood of the Aesir, Odin has reached the peak of his life at this time. Even if it is just a projection of divine power, it is an existence that even the Ancient One is very afraid of. But what about the little girl in red in front of him? She looks like she is only in her 20s. She actually blocked his attack like this? Is the king of the gods so embarrassed? Little did he know that Wanda at this time was not as simple as Odin thought. Not to mention that because of Marfa, Wanda got the Dark Book from Agatha more than 10 years earlier, and grew from a copycat witch who only knew how to attack with magic to a genuine witch who now truly knows how to use her own strength. Just the pile of miscellaneous artifact jewelry that Marfa gave her has given Wanda a big boost. It is no exaggeration to say that Wanda at this moment can easily beat 2 or 3 Wandas in the original plot of Avengers 4. In the original plot of Avengers 4, Wanda with full firepower could press Thanos without gloves to the ground. Even so, if she can't do anything about Gungnir under the control of Odin's power projection, then she really wasted the pair of big white rabbits. And what about Pietro? In lightning mode, he was surrounded by electric light, and it was obvious that he had exerted his speed to the extreme within the range allowed by his body. Swoosh! With a flash of electric arc, Pietro actually turned into a stream of light and disappeared from everyone's sight. When his figure appeared again, he had already come close to Gungnir. Phantom, hurry up, get into Marfa's body and help him heal his injuries. Give him a few more bottles of golden potion, the purest kind. Pietro instructed. Immediately, countless blue mucus separated from Pietro's body and sank directly into Marfa's body. As for Pietro, without the protection of Phantom, his strength would have been greatly reduced in the past. But now, with dual nuclear cells, he can completely stimulate the rapid regeneration of cells through lightning, so as to achieve the effect of damaging and repairing at the same time. The price to pay is just the need to replenish a lot of energy afterwards. With Marfa's infinite telomere regeneration ability, doing so will not even affect Pietro's lifespan. Without the limitation of the body, Pietro's strength will naturally increase. Is it Gungnir? Boom! In the supersonic state, Pietro punched out without hesitation, directly bombarding Gungnir. The destructive power caused by it is not inferior to that of the Hulk without anger. 1 punch is not enough? Then 10 punches. 100 punches won't work? Then 1,000 punches. At this moment, in the eyes of everyone, Pietro's entire arm disappeared. Of course, it was not because it was broken, but because the movement was too fast and had gone beyond the limit of the naked eye. In an instant, countless punches burst out on Gungnir. The roar was so dense that even the nearby Jotunheim warriors were deafened. And the golden spear was completely suppressed by Wanda and Pietro. There was no ability to move at all. Without Gungnir's control, the destroyer was also stunned on the spot, standing quietly like a statue. However, what greeted it was Hela's dense sword rain attack like a storm. Like Marfa, Hela had never participated in Pietro and Wanda's training, so it was naturally difficult for her to achieve good cooperation with the two. Since fighting Gungnir head-on will cause space to break and attract the Ancient One to suppress it, it is better to change the target of attack to the destroyer. As long as the destroyer can be completely destroyed before Marfa recovers. Gungnir without the cooperation of the destroyer is equivalent to a bird with one wing cut off. With a gun alone, it can exert a few % of its power. However, the destroyer is still the destroyer after all, even if it was pierced by Gungnir before, even if Odin is no longer in control. But it is still the armor of the god King Odin, and it is a divine weapon that was carefully upgraded by Odin for hundreds of years after Hela was imprisoned and sealed. Now, Hela is not in Asgard after all, and her strength is limited by the total amount of blue. It is impossible for her to have unlimited big moves and completely destroy the destroyer in a short time. At this time, a figure appeared. The man was shirtless and wore a pair of silver, liquid-like tight pants on his lower body. Silver and green are simply a god-level outfit. Master. X2. Surprisingly, this figure made two different sounds at the same time. There is no doubt that this was Riot, who was originally arranged by Marfa to protect Gwen, and came with Hulk. Riot. Come on, help me repair Marfa's body. There is a powerful force left in his body. We must work together to suppress and devour it. The Phantom roared. Understood. As soon as the words fell, a silver mucus separated from Hulk's body and also flowed into Marfa's body. For a time, the two symbiotes actually parasitized on the same person for the first time, and began to suppress Odin's remaining power in Marfa's body together. And what about Hulk? Looking at the golden spear on one side and the black tin man on the other side. Hulk's mouth corners immediately opened, revealing his iconic big white teeth. Fight. The next second. But a touch of green suddenly rushed towards the destroyer. Boom. With one punch, a crack appeared on one of the legs of the destroyer, who had lost Odin's control and had been attacked by Hela for a long time. The duck climbs high, the Hulk is trapped by the lamb, the elephant kicks his legs, the tiger claws eat the pudding, the Hulk flies over the vulture, the angry claws of the fox fly in a group, the gazelle leaps, and the horse's tail swings the goshawk. Crow. Take a plane. Chapter 280, The Responses of the Two Directors. Betty has been focusing on the newborn baby recently. This is a change that will inevitably happen when Betty changes from a woman to a mother. But don't forget that Hulk is different from Banner. His mental age is actually only a few years old. People with two children at home probably know that at this stage, the eldest child is particularly likely to feel neglected, thinking that his parents put their minds on his younger brothers and sisters and don't like him. The same is true for Hulk. Apart from anything else, at least Betty has been recovering recently and taking care of little Banner wholeheartedly. It has been a long time since the Hulk and Banner felt particularly comfortable. In this way, the resentment in Hulk's heart can be imagined. For Hulk, little Banner is not only a younger brother, but also a son, and also a rival in love. And the negative energy released by Hela before has greatly stimulated Hulk's dissatisfaction and anger. For a time, the long-suppressed emotions gushed out like a flood that had been opened. Especially when he saw his master being severely injured by the Tin Man in front of him, it was undoubtedly adding fuel to the fire. The angrier, the stronger. The angrier Hulk is now, the harder his fist hits the destroyer. Bang, 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 bang. Hulk. Destroy the house. Hulk, who was about to lose control of his emotions, actually lifted up the destroyer, who was about 20 meters tall. Then he threw him over his shoulder. He smashed him directly to the ground. This is not over yet. The next second, Hulk leaped and jumped on the destroyer's head. After stomping on him randomly, he stopped. Bah. Trash. Not fun. Hela. Who can tell me what kind of monster is this? Why did it appear in Midgard? Is it still unreasonable? Is there no one to take care of it? Hela thought so in her heart, but Hulk's eyes were already looking at Hela. Woman, You are very good. Fight with Hulk. Hulk hooked his finger at Hela and said, Hela, damn it, do you think I'm a soft persimmon? Arrogant, so arrogant. If I didn't have enough power now, I would definitely stab you into a honeycomb coal. Hela thought to herself. Hela is a rational person. Although her life experience has led to a bit of extreme personality, she also knows that since Hulk calls Marfa the master, it means he is one of them. If she really fights with Hulk, Marfa will not be able to explain it. Hulk, a good boy doesn't hide a woman. Look around, there are a lot of ice sculptures of snowmen. Hulk, go and hit the snowmen. Fortunately, Pietro also spent some time in the legendary technology laboratory and knew something about Hulk. He immediately spoke up to help Hela out. Snowman. Hulk heard this and looked around. As expected, although Tony Stark, Steve Rogers and others were dealing with the Jotunheim warriors at this time, the number of Jotunheim's side was too large after all, resulting in a lack of strength even though everyone was busy. Hulk likes to beat snowmen. As soon as the words fell, Hulk stepped on the destroyer a few more times and rushed into the battlefield. Those ice giants had never seen a monster like Hulk before, and they actually came up to him on their own initiative, wanting to crush the green little guy in front of them. Bang! With one punch, the head of the ice giant fell off. Bang! With one kick, the arm of the ice giant was broken. For a moment, Hulk was like an out-of-control lawnmower, and began to dismantle the snowman frantically. SHIELD. Trident headquarters. Nick Fury looked at the scene in front of him and frowned. There is a problem, there is indeed a problem. Marfa told him before that the alien invasion was because he touched their treasures, which made the thunder god named Thor unable to take back his power. So he sent a large army to invade the Earth. But what about now? If I guess correctly, the man and woman who are not in the SHIELD files are probably Thor and his sister mentioned by Marfa. So why would they fight with a tribesman who came to find a place for them? This doesn't make sense at all. Secondly, there is the problem of Bruce Banner. Although Nick Fury can only see the blurry pictures taken by the satellite due to signal interference, there is no audio to provide intelligence. But Hulk is obviously on his side now, and he seems to know Pietro. When did they know each other? Did Banner disappear because of Andrew's betrayal? If they met after that, why didn't Marfa report to him? Everything seems to reveal the taste of conspiracy. And the core of all this conspiracy is undoubtedly Marfa Maximoff. Could it be that Banner's disappearance is related to him? Then why did he do this? Is this related to the healing potions of legendary technology? In addition, Pietro seems to have shown abilities similar to those of the Electric Warrior just now. If I remember correctly, his original ability should be speed type. It's so strange. At this moment, Nick Fury only felt that this world was so strange that he, the king of agents, actually had a lot of problems that he couldn't explain at all. Steve, if this mission can be successfully completed, then you. Thinking of this, Nick Fury immediately conveyed the new mission to Steve through the communication device. However, damn it. I am so angry, damn signal interference. Clark. Nick Fury shouted at the office door. No, there is no signal interference on the Trident side. Why don't I use the communication decoration to contact Clark? I am really angry. At this time, in the minister's office at Trident, Alexander Pierce was also not calm. The news was good and bad. The bad news was that his Electric Light Soldier Regiment actually lost 8 people at once. 8 superpowers. That is the wealth of his Hydra. He was killed by the black-hearted Black Egg. Pierce's heart was bleeding. No, it was bleeding. The good news was that Marfa had actually controlled the Hulk. This was undoubtedly like a shot of cardiac stimulant, which relieved Pierce from the risk of cardiac arrest. Although it is not known to what extent Marfa has controlled the Hulk, this is undoubtedly great news for Hydra. In the Spider-Man incident, Hydra got the clone Flash. In the Electro incident, Hydra got 20 Electro warriors. So what about this time? Let alone the Hulk who came to the door, the bodies of the aliens alone are very interesting. As long as the aliens can be defeated in this battle, Pierce believes that with the power he has, he will be able to get a lot of alien bodies. At that time, just throw it to Strucker. Not only can he save the face he lost with Strucker, but he may also create more powerful superpowered warriors for the organization. Imagine that when Hydra masters the genetic code of aliens and masters the technology of aliens. Would that be invincible? What else do we need the Earth for? My goal is the Sea of Stars. Of course, if Loki knew what Pierce was thinking, he would probably laugh out loud. There is no technology in Jotunheim. Even if there is, it is a product of half technology and half magic. Do you have rich magic elements on Earth? Or do you have the magic heritage of Jotunheim? How can you understand what I am the princess of Jotunheim, and I have not learned? Of course, if you just want to strengthen your body, prolong your life, and change your skin to blue, Loki believes that Pierce can still do it. Chapter 281 Dallin. It's time to take medicine. New York battlefield. Under the joint suppression of the two symbiotes, Riot and Phantom, the remaining divine power in Marfa was finally suppressed. A blessing in disguise. Due to the invasion of Odin's divine power, the dual nuclear cells in Marfa's body, after feeling the threat of a third-party force, actually gave up the original confrontation and chose to fight together to resist foreign enemies. If the original dual nuclear cells of Marfa were dominated by Marfa's own nucleus and the nucleus with the Hulk factor was subordinate. Indeed, Marfa's original nucleus can command subordinates as a master and fight for him. However, they are two independent individuals after all, which makes the subordinate nucleus smile on the surface, but say I will help you if there is something, but I will ignore you if there is nothing. In other words, it is impossible for the subordinate nucleus to actively help Marfa to optimize the cells when Marfa does not turn on the dual nuclear mode. But what about now? With the experience of fighting together, an inexplicable connection has been formed between the two nuclei. Although it is still a subordinate relationship, the cell nucleus with the Hulk factor began to actively help Marfa optimize the cell as a whole. If Marfa has completely completed the dual core transformation at this time, there is no doubt that her body cells will slowly transform into the structure of the Hulk cell while maintaining the original characteristics. Finally, a true humanoid Hulk mode is achieved, and it is a humanoid Hulk mode without any side effects. However, it is a pity that the cultivation of the giant cell nucleus with the Hulk factor is much more difficult than Pietro's lightning cell nucleus. Because of this, until now, Marfa's human body transformation has only reached 60% of the progress. But this does not mean that this accident is completely useless. At least Marfa's cells have made a leap in the acceptance and carrying capacity of the giant cell nucleus. In other words, Marfa's speed of opening the dual core mode has not only greatly increased, but even the side effects after using the dual core mode have been greatly reduced. And this kind of mutual acceptance relationship between the two cell nuclei will affect the subsequent injection of the giant cell nucleus into Marfa's body. Through Wanda's blood, Marfa has telekinesis similar to that of Marvel's wizard. Through Hulk cells, Marfa will have unparalleled physical strength one day in the future. Coupled with its enhanced Taoist template, Marfa's path will undoubtedly go further and smoother. Compared with Marfa, the benefits gained by Phantom and Riot are no less. Originally, because of the electro gene, both of them abandoned the weakness of fearing high temperature and fire. Now, because of the absorption of Odin's remaining power in Marfa's body, both of them have taken a step towards a more perfect form. From now on, sound waves will no longer be the weakness of Riot and Phantom. How powerful the symbiote is without fatal weaknesses has been shown in the serum, Anti-Venom, in Marvel Comics. And after Pietro puts on the battlesuit transformed by Phantom, he will no longer be limited by the problem of sound wave frequency and can use the power of shock without scruples. This undoubtedly adds a strong touch to Pietro's strength. Healing. After using 2 healing spells on himself in a row, coupled with the healing ability of the symbiote itself and the effect of the powerful solar water, the blood hole on Marfa's chest had completely disappeared. Alice. I was careless after all. I didn't expect Gungnir to break through the limitations of the mirror space. It seems that I have to be more careful when using this trick in the future. Marfa concluded secretly. But when his eyes fell on the battlefield. What's going on? Am I dazzled? What Marfa saw was the scene of Pietro beating Gungnir violently under Wanda's suppression. On the other side, the destroyer was even deformed by the joint efforts of Hela and Hulk. How can this destroyer look like a bit of the destroyer? It's just scrap metal. What did the Dino Girl do to it? Because Hulk had already gone to fight the snowman, Marfa naturally put the blame on Hela. Marfa, it seems that you recover very quickly. Ancient One slowly floated to Marfa and said, Sir Supreme Sorcerer, you have done me a disservice. I almost lost my life, and you are still making sarcastic remarks. Marfa said with a face full of resentment. I did not do this on purpose, but I had no choice. The reason why the multiverse can maintain balance is that my Kumartaj lineage has indeed made great contributions. However, we have already done our best to deal with Dormammu, the Lord of the Dark Dimension. If we intervene in other disputes, it will undoubtedly push us to the forefront and eventually be attacked from all sides. Stopping Hela and Odin from fighting head-on with the strongest attitude is the limit of what I can do. If I continue to entangle with Odin, it will be my Kumartaj taking the initiative to provoke. Therefore, this battle can only rely on you. Ancient One said very sincerely, and a trace of apology was rarely seen on his face. What about Tony? He should also be a member of Kumartaj now. Why can he? Marfa pointed to Tony, who was wearing a demon armor and was madly bullying others. I have expelled him from my sect. I can't control him, but I can't expel myself from Kumartaj. Ancient One said in astonishment. Expelled from my sect? So serious? Then he will be. Before Marfa finished speaking, Ancient One had already understood what Marfa meant. I will accept him again tomorrow. What he does during his absence from the sect has nothing to do with me. Marfa, is this okay? Well, you are the boss, you have the final say. Undoubtedly, Ancient One's coquettish operation really shocked Marfa. In other words, as long as Ancient One is willing, anyone in Kumartaj can join any war in this way, except Ancient One herself. Because she represents Kumartaj itself. As long as it does not involve destroying the balance of the latitude and the universe itself, Ancient One must always stand on a neutral position. As for why Stephen Strange, Doctor Strange in the original plot, can participate in the final battle, there is no doubt that Thanos' ambition has already involved the balance of the entire universe. And the magicians of Kumartaj are undoubtedly in that half and half range. It doesn't make sense to say that you attack me and I can't fight back. Cunning. For a moment, apart from these 4 words, Marfa couldn't think of any other words to describe the Ancient One. Aren't you going to help? Wanda's talent is indeed good, but such an uncontrolled outbreak will hurt our foundation. The Ancient One said with a cunning face. Okay. You are the boss, you are right. Marfa secretly complained in his heart. Since it is already known that Gungnir is the opponent's weakness, and now Gungnir has been suppressed by Pietro and Wanda, what else is there to say? Wanda, listen to my command later and withdraw the magic. Pietro, stop now and don't attack Gungnir anymore. Marfa shouted at Wanda and Pietro in front. Seeing their brothers full of energy, the two of them immediately put down their hearts. In an instant, a strong sense of fatigue and overdraft swept over the two of them. Okay. As soon as the voice fell, Pietro's figure appeared beside Wanda, ready to help Wanda at any time. Without Pietro's help, Wanda, whose magic power had already been overdrawn, could not suppress Gungnir immediately. Seeing the situation, Marfa immediately threw out a talisman. Magic spell. Under Marfa's control, the talisman immediately turned into a star-shaped array, wrapping Gungnir in it. Soon, the arrays connected to each other, and the forbidden magic field was formed. Now, Wanda. As Marfa's voice fell, Wanda immediately withdrew the magic. At this time, Gungnir was already wrapped in the forbidden magic field and completely lost contact with Odin. Immediately, Marfa flew forward, grabbed the golden spear, and put it into the storage backpack without saying a word. Odin, I just don't believe that your divine power can pass through the isolation of my system and communicate with Gungnir in the storage backpack. Marfa raised the corner of his mouth slightly, thinking secretly in his heart. After all, no matter how poor the consciousness of the legendary world is, it is also the incarnation of a world. If the world will in front of him was the will of the MCU, Marfa certainly wouldn't dare to do this, but the other party was just Odin, a god king who was still in hibernation and could only rely on the projection of divine power to fight. Asgard. The divine power connection was blocked, and the divine power projection also dissipated. The divine power in Odin's body, which had already been rioting, immediately let itself go like a wild horse that had broken free from its reins. For a while, Odin's whole body began to ooze blood. It was impossible to wake up in a short time, and it was hard to say whether he could save his life. At this time, Frigga, who was guarding by the side, saw Odin in this state, and her eyes flashed instantly. It should be noted that Frigga is not a member of the Aesir, but the daughter of the king of Vanaheim. The reason why she married Odin was largely due to political marriage, and everything was done for the people of Vanaheim to be able to. Later, with Hela and Thor, Frigga slowly accepted her identity. After all, they have children. It is for this reason that Frigga loves Loki, who has a similar experience, very much, and even treats him as her own child. But what about Odin? He first imprisoned and sealed Hela, and now he wants to take action against Thor. This undoubtedly touches the bottom line of a mother. Which mother in the world does not love her children, even if she is extremely evil? What's more, what did Hela do wrong? She just threatened Odin's kingship because of the problem of her godhood. But even if she is unwilling, what can she, a woman, do? Not to mention that she can't beat Odin. If she implicates the people of Vanaheim, she, Frigga, will be a sinner for all ages. Now, as long as Odin dies, Hela and Thor can return to Asgard. Mother and daughter reunited, mother and son are filial. Dalang. It's time to take medicine. Frigga slowly approached the seriously injured Odin with a dagger in her hand. Chapter 282, one wave has not yet subsided, another wave has risen. Odin's death can be said to be inevitable, or destined. The only difference from the original plot is that this time Odin actually died at the hands of Frigga. I'm afraid that even if Marfa racked his brains, he would not have thought of such a result. Fortunately, Frigga is not an ignorant woman. Now Odin is still in hibernation in name, so even if he is dead, no one will find out. As long as Thor and others are welcomed back, then, whether it is Thor or Hela who ascends the throne, they can quickly control the overall situation with the help of Frigga. When everything is settled, and then Odin's death is announced, who can shake the rule of Thor or Hela? Of course not. There is no doubt that with this relationship, Vanaheim is equivalent to royal relatives. As long as I don't die, Vanaheim's status and current situation will definitely be greatly improved. Especially Thor. Not to mention that his mother is the eldest princess of Vanaheim, Thor's child bride, the goddess of harvest, Sif, is also from Vanaheim, which is enough to influence Thor's decision. What about the other three Asgardian warriors? Fandral and Hogun are also from Vanaheim, and only Volstagg is a pure-blooded Aesir. In this way, almost all the people who are very important to Thor are related to Vanaheim. Can Vanaheim have a hard time? Since ancient times, there has been no family affection in the royal family, not to mention the God King. The death of Odin can not only allow Hela and Thor to return, but also benefit her hometown. Frigga is undoubtedly making a lot of money in this deal. On the battlefield in New York. Without Odin's disruption, the remaining Jotunheim army is still huge in number, but because of the lack of high-end combat power, it is already powerless to turn the tide. Don't forget that although legendary technology mainly deals in blood-adding potions, Marfa has a lot of blue medicine in stock. Whether it was Hela or Wanda, as long as they had enough mana, they would undoubtedly be complete battlefield mowers. Just when everyone was beating the Jotunheim warriors back step by step, thunder suddenly roared in the sky. Then, the sky above New York was immediately covered by a layer of dark clouds. Pants. Bucket-like lightning continued to break through the sky. This is. Feeling the divine power in his body, Thor suddenly opened his eyes wide. Could it be? The next second, Thor waved his hand, and Mjolnir, which was previously taken back from Steve by Hela, immediately flew into Thor's hands. At this moment, the seal left by Odin in Thor's body was completely broken. In an instant, countless thunderclouds formed in the sky above New York. However, those thunderclouds kept surging like tornadoes, and with Thor's hammer raised high, they immediately poured into Thor's body. Waste. In the end, his attachment to the hammer overcame his belief in awakening his own bloodline. Hela said with disdain. Just as Hela was thinking about whether to destroy Mjolnir herself, she saw a flash of lightning in Thor's body. Obviously, this was the effect of the gene of the Electric Man in Thor's body. With the guidance of Mjolnir, and the fact that the Electric Man gene had originally stimulated the deep blood power in Thor's body. Bathed in thunder and lightning, Thor's body began to change immediately. Unlike the original plot, he did not put on his battle suit again. This time, Thor's whole body was covered with countless dark blue scales. Between his eyebrows, a lightning mark appeared. The whole person was like a real god, standing proudly between heaven and earth. Actually awakened? I didn't expect that the potion of Marfa was really useful. Hela said in shock. After all, she herself had spent a lot of effort to awaken the deep blood power. Perhaps this is what they call a fool's luck. Hela murmured to herself. And what about Loki? Seeing Thor also turn blue, Loki couldn't help but feel a little closer to him. In this way, wouldn't Thor be the same as himself? Touching his bulging chest, Loki couldn't help but blush. Maybe this is not bad. Inexplicably, Loki actually had such a terrible idea. With a loud shout, Thor's momentum finally reached its peak. Kill. The next second, Thor raised his meow hammer and aimed at the thundercloud in the sky. With the word kill falling, the thunder power in the thundercloud immediately went wild. Rumble. Thunder bursts from the sky. Countless lightning also poured down. Those lightnings fell on the ice giant and the mountain giant, and immediately hit them into pieces of charred fragments, and there was no possibility of survival. Fuck. He's cheating. Marfa exclaimed. If Thor was just a rookie in Hela's hands before, then now Thor's strength and group attack is no less than Hela. If the battlefield is on Earth, it is really hard to say who will win. Of course, if the battlefield is changed to Asgard, there is no doubt that Thor is still a rookie. After all, Hela, like Odin, has undergone a special ritual baptism and merged part of her soul with Asgard. As long as she is in Asgard, Hela has unlimited power. With the two group attack experts of the Aesir, as well as Pietro, Hulk, and Wanda, there is no doubt that the battle situation is completely one-sided. Even if the warriors of Jotunheim are still countless, it is only a matter of time before they fall into miserable defeat and die. Just when everyone was relieved, a colorful rainbow light fell on the New York battlefield again. Damn Aesir, damn Midgard, how dare you massacre the brave warriors of Jotunheim like this? You are courting death. The rainbow light faded, revealing two figures. The first person that caught everyone's eyes was a woman. Mother. X3. The people who spoke were Hela, Thor and Loki. And there was only one person in the world who could be called mother by them, and that was the Queen of Heaven, Frigga. Soon, everyone saw the ice blade on Frigga's neck. This person was the one who just spoke, the Lord of Jotunheim, Frost Giant Laufey. Put down your weapons, otherwise. Humph. I will kill this woman. Laufey said coldly. However, as soon as he finished speaking, a green figure suddenly jumped out. Crow. Take a plane. Let's not talk about the people present. Except for Hela's three siblings, no one knew Frigga at all. Even if they knew her, with Hulk's personality, it would be impossible for him to be threatened by Laufey because of Frigga. HMPH, a candlelight dares to compete with a bright moon. Facing Hulk's attack, Laufey was extremely disdainful. He waved his hand, and a simple box suddenly appeared in his palm. Then, the box quickly grew larger, and a cold air instantly gushed out of it. Hulk was frozen on the spot. There is no doubt that a box that can freeze Hulk must be extraordinary. Looking at Jotunheim, the only thing that can have such power is the treasure of Jotunheim, the icebox. According to the secret records of Jotunheim, the icebox contains endless cold air. Let alone freezing Hulk, even if you want to freeze the entire Earth, it is only a matter of time. Roar. Hulk was trapped in the ice, and he roared angrily. It's just a pity that the cold air that froze Hulk invaded Hulk's body much faster than the speed at which the Hulk factor was affected by Hulk's emotions. Soon, Hulk had completely turned into an ice sculpture. Tisk, Laufey, do you think that you can control my sister and me by capturing Frigga? From the moment we were imprisoned by Odin, we no longer have a sense of belonging to Asgard, and there is only hatred. If you want to kill, then kill. Hela was the first to react and spoke immediately. Oh? Really? She will be sad if you say such things. Ho ha ho ha, ha ho ha ho ha. Chapter 283 Loki's Choice. What do you mean? Hela frowned. It seems that you really don't know your mother at all. In this case, I will tell you. Shut up. Laufey, you can kill me if you want, I will never allow you to talk nonsense here. Frigga interrupted Laufey before he finished speaking. Her whole body was trying hard to rub against the ice blade in Laufey's hand, wanting to end her life. But would Laufey give Frigga such an opportunity? Obviously not. With the cold air in the ice box gushing out, Frigga turned into a crystallized sculpture like Hulk. It's really interesting. The more you do this, the more excited I am. If you don't let me say it, I will say it anyway. Whether you were imprisoned or Thor was exiled, Queen Frigga did everything to plead for you. If it weren't for her, do you think you could really survive for 1,000 years with your divine power sealed? Why did Odin not attack you for nearly 1,000 years? Let me tell you. Because of her. Queen Frigga. She promised Odin to continue to bear children for him, which saved your life. It's really great maternal love. Ha ha ha. Frigga was so happy to know that you escaped from the land of death. In order to allow you and Thor to return to Asgard openly. and to prevent Odin from continuing to embarrass you. She even killed Odin with her own hands. How about it? Now you still want me to kill her? After saying this, Laufey tapped Frigga's ice sculpture lightly. An arm frozen in ice immediately fell to the ground. Oh my. I'm so sorry. I didn't pay attention and broke her arm. Even if she is thawed, she will probably become disabled. After saying that, Laufey stepped on Frigga's fallen ice sculpture arm and crushed it. Ice debris instantly splashed all over the ground. Tisk tisk tisk, look at me, I'm not so careless. It seems that I can't put it back. So what's next? Thigh? Arm? Head? Or just break it? No. Hela immediately stopped Laufey's action. Clang. The night sky sword fell to the ground. 2 lines of tears hung on Hela's face. She always knew, that Odin didn't kill her because of some reason. But she never expected that it was because of Frigga. Now everything makes sense. Why was there a crack in the seal that allowed her to use a little divine power to maintain her life? Why didn't Odin continue to do it after sealing her? It turned out that everything was because of Frigga. What? In order to let me return to Asgard openly, my mother actually. At this moment, Thor was also stunned. As long as he thought of the past, he was still blaming Frigga for not pleading with Odin for him. Thor felt ashamed. At this time, Thor also understood why the seal in his body suddenly weakened. It turned out that it was because Odin was dead. Just when Thor was stunned, an axe suddenly appeared behind Laufey and chopped towards Laufey and Frigga regardless of anything. Obviously, he wanted to kill both of them on the spot. Seeing the appearance of the person coming, Thor shouted immediately. Volstagg? Don't. However, Volstagg obviously had no intention of letting Frigga and Laufey go, but instead increased the strength in his hands. Like Heimdall, Volstagg was loyal to the entire Aesir, not Thor alone. Now, Frigga actually killed Odin. In Volstagg's view, this is naturally equivalent to betraying Asgard and the Aesir. What's the use of keeping such a woman? However, what greeted him was a hammer. Duong. The axe and the hammer intersected, and the 2 powerful forces collided with each other, immediately setting off a hurricane on the spot. Seeing that Frigga's ice sculpture was about to be blown to the ground and then smashed to pieces, another figure suddenly appeared, and used the softness of his chest to buffer the force of the ice sculpture's fall. The ice sculpture is saved. Sif breathed a sigh of relief after taking a look at Frigga's ice sculpture that was not damaged. Facts have once again proved that some things are bigger, and at certain times, they can really be used to save lives. And what about Volstagg at this time? He had already been knocked away by the Meow Hammer more than 10 meters away. Before the awakening of his talent, Volstagg was indeed able to fight Thor on equal terms in terms of strength. But now, facing Thor, who not only recovered his divine power and awakened his bloodline, but also perfectly integrated the genes of the Electric Man, he is no longer enough. Swish! A western sword and a meteor hammer were immediately placed on Volstagg's neck. Volstagg, what are you going to do? That's the Queen of Heaven. There is no doubt that the people who spoke were Fandral and Hogan. Queen of Heaven? Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. I don't admit that she is the Queen of Heaven. She killed my king and doesn't deserve the title of Queen of Heaven. Volstagg raised his head and howled. But in the next second, a black sword light flashed and directly pierced Volstagg's heart. You, a bunch of traitors. Plop. As soon as the voice fell, Volstagg fell directly into a pool of blood. There is no doubt that the one who just made the move was Hela. Ha ha ha. Wonderful, so wonderful. The internal fight between the 4 warriors of Asgard really opened my eyes. After that, the icebox once again blew out a stream of cold air, freezing Sif in it. 2 ice sculptures lay in front of Laufey. Laufey was even more proud. Hela, pick up the sword and kill Thor. Otherwise, don't blame me for not controlling the strength of my feet well. Thor, kill Hela in the same way. No matter who wins, I promise to let Frigga go. As he said that, Laufey immediately stepped on the head of the ice sculpture Frigga. Just a slight force, Frigga must die on the spot. And this is exactly the result Laufey wanted to see. No matter who wins, for his son, Loki, it means one less opponent to compete for the throne. As for Frigga, it doesn't matter whether she is dead or alive. Let's take a step back, even if she is really let go, what will happen? Odin is dead, and with the ice box in hand, Laufey is confident that he can easily kill the winner of the fratricide. The king of Asgard must be Loki, only in this way can Laufey's ambition be realized naturally. I'm sorry, Thor, the Queen Mother cannot die. Hela said with a firm look in her eyes. Do it, everything is for the mother. Unlike Hela, Thor has no intention of killing Hela at all. In order to save her mother, Hela chose to kill Thor, but Thor chose to let Hela kill herself. Seeing that the two siblings were about to kill each other, Frigga, who was frozen in the ice, was heartbroken. If she could choose, she would rather die herself than either Hela or Thor. However, just as Laufey was waiting for the result with joy, a dagger suddenly pierced from behind and then penetrated her body. I'm sorry, Father. I will never allow anyone to hurt the Queen Mother. The person who spoke was Loki. Although Loki was seriously injured because of Hela's cruelness. But as long as he thought of the mother who had always loved him and the brother who had always taken good care of him being in danger, Loki's whole body was full of energy. Not to mention climbing dozens of meters to stab Laufey behind him. Even if he crawled around the earth and stabbed Laufey to death, Loki would never hesitate. Maybe he would miss the throne of the God King that he had always dreamed of, but he would not regret it. Because Loki is such a villain who is arrogant on the surface but extremely sensitive in his heart. Who treats him well and who treats him badly, he can see clearly with his own eyes. If Hela asked Thor to kill her, Loki might hesitate again, but now it was Thor who asked Hela to kill him. This is what Loki absolutely does not want to see. Whether for Frigga or for Thor, Laufey must die. You. Loki. You. Actually. Laufey looked at his son in disbelief. It's your fault for attacking my mother. Anyone who wants to hurt her will be killed by me. Although Loki was beaten into Pig's head, he still said with a cruel look on his face. Rebellious son, rebellious son. Ha ha ha. The next second, Laufey used a Jotunheim whirlwind and kicked Loki to the ground. Then, the bloody hole in his chest began to heal quickly. My dear son. Let your father teach you a lesson. Next time you stab the frost giant, remember to aim for the head. We are different from you, a half-baked person. Jotunheim has self-healing magic. Not to mention the chest, even if the heart is broken, it may not die. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 284, Death of Laufey. Laufey's own strength is self-evident. Anyone who can be feared by Odin, no matter how terrible, needs to be taken seriously by Marfa, who has not yet completed the dual core mode. What's more, the person on the other side is Laufey himself, not just a projection of divine power like Odin. More importantly, nowadays, both Hela and Thor attach great importance to Laufey's hostages. If you act rashly, if you succeed in saving Frigga, it's fine. If the action fails, then it will undoubtedly attract the anger of Thor and Hela. Who would be willing to do such a thankless job? Those present, whether Tony or Steve, are all smart people, and naturally no one wants to touch this bad luck. Pietro, can you hear me? Marfa sent a chat to Pietro through the team chat system. Okay, do you want to interfere in the duel between Hela and Thor? As Marfa's brother, Pietro naturally knows him quite well. In this case, Marfa must have a plan for private chatting with him. Yes, we do this and that, this and that. Then, Marfa simply repeated his plan. Understood, no problem for me. Hearing Pietro's answer, Marfa immediately breathed a sigh of relief. If anyone present could rush to Laufey and attack him before Laufey could react, apart from the Ancient One, there would undoubtedly be only Pietro who had the ability of speed. Unfortunately, Pietro's speed was more than enough at this time, but like Marfa, his attack power was still lacking. Just like when he helped Wanda suppress Gungnir before, all Pietro could rely on was to quickly attack the same point to achieve the effect of superimposing punches. If he relied solely on Pietro, the risk would be too great. If Laufey recovered and sent him an absolute freezing gas, there is no doubt that Pietro would be instantly frozen like the Hulk. But don't forget that Marfa has a magical weapon that has been hidden for a long time. Thinking of this, Marfa immediately took out a paralysis ring from the storage backpack and quietly put it on his hand. The next second, Pietro's figure suddenly disappeared from everyone's sight. When he appeared again, he had already come close to Laufey with Marfa in his arms. Paralysis ring. Every attack has a 1/15 probability of paralyzing the target. The effect lasts for 5 seconds. Once the effect is triggered, the target will fall into a state of paralysis and cannot make any movements. In the Legend of Mir game, this is undoubtedly a PK treasure hunting artifact exclusive to warriors. Imagine a group of warriors with paralysis rings, attacking a boss crazily. If you are lucky, you can completely numb the boss from head to death, and he won't even have the slightest resistance. PK with a blood profession like the mage, as long as you can successfully trigger the paralysis effect, it is equivalent to winning in advance. The probability of 1/15 is indeed not high, but in Petro's view, it is not a problem. If the probability is not high, then make up for it with frequency. At this time, Marfa was completely a humanoid weapon in Petro's hands. It didn't matter how strong the attack was, what mattered was the speed of the attack. In just a moment, Luffy, under the cooperation of the two, fell into a paralyzed state like a stone sculpture, unable to move at all. What am I? Luffy was horrified, and it was impossible for him to take action. What are you waiting for? We have restricted Luffy, what do you want to do? Hurry up! Marfa shouted. Ah! Oh! 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 Thor also reacted at this time, and immediately his body turned into electricity, rushed directly in front of Luffy, hugged Frigga with one hand and Sif with the other, and immediately flew back. And what about Hela? She also came directly in front of Luffy, raised the sword of the night sky, and was about to chop at Luffy. Bang! A sword slashed down, but it did not kill Luffy. A pair of crossed daggers were surprisingly used to hold Hela's sword of the night sky. Loki! You are looking for death? Hela scolded angrily. How? He can't die in your hands. Loki's mouth was bleeding, but his expression was very firm. Don't think I don't dare to kill you. Today, Luffy must die here. I said. Hela's eyes were full of murderous intent. Although Hela had long lost her attachment to Asgard, and even if possible, Hela would like to destroy it with her own hands. But obviously, Frigga was not one of them. As a mother, although Frigga was not very qualified, after all, in addition to being a mother, she also had the identity of a queen. To be able to do this, she had already tried her best. And Luffy actually used Frigga to threaten Hela. This was not touching Hela's bottom line, but clearly stepping on her bottom line and dancing wildly. With Hela's character, she had given Loki enough face by not throwing a big move at him at this time. After all, the other party had just risked his life to assassinate Luffy. But if she wanted to save Luffy because of this, Hela would never allow it. At this time, although Luffy was still paralyzed, after seeing his son, Loki, blocking the fatal blow for him, he also forgave his ignorant son in his heart. Children, how can you not make mistakes on the road to growth? It is a great virtue to know your mistakes and correct them. At this time, Luffy was very comforted. It was not in vain that he gave birth to him. Luffy thought so in his heart. However, the next second, puff, puff, Loki turned around suddenly, and the two daggers in his hand went straight into Luffy's eye sockets and directly stabbed into his brain. You may have misunderstood. I said that anyone who dares to hurt my mother is my enemy. My enemies can only die in my hands. Pulling out the dagger, Loki shook off the blood on the dagger and said fiercely. Until his death, Luffy couldn't believe that his son actually killed him for a woman. You can close your eyes. No, you don't have any anymore, my father. I followed your teachings this time. I attacked your head directly. After saying this, Loki walked towards Frigga without looking back. Loki is a good son, a good daughter. At least for Frigga, this sentence is correct. At this moment, Loki's mind was full of Frigga's safety, so how could he care about collecting the body of Luffy? The king of Jotunheim. The body of the frost giant Luffy was left aside. Seeing this, all the warriors of Jotunheim were stunned. The king. Dead. So what's the point of their current battle? Didn't you say that you would lead us to unify the 9 realms of the gods? However, sadly, no one came forward to collect the body of Luffy. If nothing else, Hela was standing next to Luffy's body at this time. Everyone saw Hela's previous battle with Odin. Since there was no reason to fight, naturally no one was willing to die. Fortunately, no matter which race, there are always some exceptions. I don't know who shouted first. Revenge for my king. Kill Hela. Take back my king's body. Puff. As soon as the voice fell, the person who spoke was pierced by the sword of the night sky. This time, it seemed to be the last straw that broke the camel's back. All the warriors of Jotunheim laid down their weapons and chose to surrender. What else can they do? Warriors are also human beings, and they also have 7 emotions and 6 desires. Although they are not afraid of death, which family does not have brothers and sisters, which family does not have old and young? In the case of the collapse of faith, knowing that it is a certain death, who is willing to die? Ugh. Ugh. Marfa can't care about others, but Marfa can be sure that he is in a very bad situation now. Being used as a weapon by Pietro, he was swung hundreds of thousands of times in a very short time. I'm afraid that no one would be much better. At this time, Marfa only felt dizzy and nauseous. Her stomach was churning, and she was almost incontinent. This feeling was countless times more intense than the first time she experienced the random teleportation scroll. If it weren't for the fact that Marfa's physical strength had long been extraordinary, it would not be impossible for her to be shaken to death by Pietro. Ugh. Ugh. I swear, ugh. I'll use this trick again next time. Ugh. I am. Before she finished speaking, Marfa had indeed collapsed to the ground. Hela looked at her man who had done this for her, and it would be a lie to say that she was not moved. She quickly took off her battle robe and rushed forward like a big sister next door, helping Marfa up. Feeling Marfa's body temperature, Hela felt that the little deer in her heart was beating wildly, almost bursting out of her body. Chapter 285. The system is stuck. Time passed by, and Marfa finally recovered from the debuff. At this time, the ice sculptures of Frigga, Sif, and Hulk had been carefully placed together and lined up. Except for Steve Rogers, who had been frozen, no one present had ever personally participated in or experienced this situation. The scene of Frigga's arm being broken by Luffy was still vivid in his mind. If he didn't handle it well, let alone saving people, it would be good enough if he didn't kill them. As for Loki, he did know how to release the cold air from the ice box, but Luffy didn't tell him how to take it back. Master Ancient One, at this point, are you still not going to take action? Marfa looked aside and said to Ancient One, who had been watching the show. It's not impossible, but excessive use of the Eye of Agamotto may create parallel universes for no reason. I don't want to cause trouble for Kamartaj. After all, we have only one goal. You should know this. Ancient One still spoke calmly. Good fellow. You don't want to show your hands until you see the rabbit, right? The Ancient One said this, undoubtedly telling Marfa that if he wanted her to take action, he had to give her benefits first. Okay, go and do your work, I'll think of other ways. Is Marfa the one who will suffer a loss? Of course not. The world can go on without anyone, let alone her, the Ancient One. Oh? Really? Your weird healing spell is useless. The Ancient One seemed to have Marfa in his grasp, and said with a playful look on his face. I think it's better to forget it, Your Excellency the Sorcerer Supreme. I am willing to invest in improving the living environment of Kamartaj, and you just... Tony saw that the Ancient One was deliberately making things difficult, thinking that Marfa was after all his best friend, and the Ancient One was also his teacher. If he could spend some money to make things right for the two of them, it would naturally be great, so he spoke up. Tony, I haven't come to settle accounts with you for molesting female disciples in Kamartaj. Guyu looked at Tony with a smile, and that expression was as if he was chatting with family, without any threat. But Tony was not calm when he heard it. Molesting female disciples? Who did he molest? Wasn't it Natalia Maximov? Thinking of this, Tony shut up instantly. Slip away, slip away. Can't afford to offend. Can't afford to offend. The three Hela siblings were even more straightforward. When they learned that Guyu could save Frigga, they immediately reached for their weapons. Don't agree? Beat you until you agree. That's how the heirs here are. If you don't agree, just do it. The big fist is the king. Wait. Everyone, if you believe in me and hand them over to me, I will definitely save them. Seeing that the three siblings were going to die, Marfa was not willing. He immediately opened his mouth to stop them. Oh. But this made Guyu even more curious. Marfa was so confident. It should be noted that the coldness of the ice box is not so easy to deal with. Even for her, the Ancient One, the only solution she could think of was the Eye of Agamotto and the power of darkness. Could it be that he wanted to use the power of Dormammu? Thinking this in his heart, the Ancient One quickly denied his guess. Even though Marfa was very difficult for him to see through, the Ancient One could conclude that he must not have anything to do with Dormammu. Apart from anything else, the kind of neutral and peaceful aura on Marfa, which had a faint sense of the avenue, was completely different from Dormammu. Wait a minute. After saying that, Marfa immediately controlled telekinesis to lift up 3 ice sculptures and disappeared from everyone's sight. The Ancient One wanted to follow up to find out what was going on, but on the one hand, it was because Hela and the other 2 were looking at her unkindly at this time, and on the other hand, the Ancient One was very confident that Marfa could not solve the problem of coldness. Therefore, after a little thought, the Ancient One simply sat on the ground and waited quietly. In fact, the request of the Ancient One was very simple, and it was not to make things difficult for Marfa. After seeing Marfa's spell of confinement, she had the idea of cooperating with Marfa. And the person that she needed to cooperate with to deal with was naturally Dormammu. As mentioned before, Marfa's ability came from the Taoist priest, and this power was full of righteousness, and the spell of confinement and the soul fire talisman had a certain restraint against the intangible Dormammu. If Marfa could help, then in the future, the Ancient One would naturally have a better chance of winning against Dormammu. However, in just a cup of tea, Marfa returned to everyone through the space gate. And behind him, of course, were Sif and Frigga. This. How is it possible? He actually did it. The Ancient One was stunned on the spot. Although Marfa's abilities were strange, after this period of secret observation, the Ancient One had a general understanding of them. It definitely did not include the ability to remove the cold. But the reality was that Marfa really unfrozen it too. Even the wound on Frigga's left arm healed. Of course, if it was Ancient One who did it, not to mention healing wounds, even regenerating broken limbs could be easily done. After all, the Eye of Agamotto can go back in time. How did Marfa do it? Does he really have a trump card to unfreeze? Of course not. But Marfa doesn't have it, but it doesn't mean that others don't. Don't forget that the horse spell, one of the 12 spells, has the ability to remove all external forces and heal injuries. Coincidentally, Chenglong's horse spell power has just awakened. With a cooperative relationship between the two, it is natural to ask Chenglong for a small favor. There is no doubt that the place where Marfa went with the teleportation ring after leaving everyone's sight was District 13. Chenglong is different from Marfa. His goal is to keep himself alive in the MCU, so he certainly won't participate in the war that could not endanger him before. But in Avengers 3, Thanos' snap will be dangerous to him, so Chenglong needs to cooperate with Marfa to fight Thanos together. With this relationship, saving a person is not a piece of cake. Mother, I'm sorry. It's my fault. I put you in danger. Seeing Frigga, Loki was immediately ashamed and knelt down in front of Frigga to apologize. Silly child. I should say I'm sorry for not telling you the truth earlier. What's more, I saw everything just now. If you hadn't risked your life to save me, I wouldn't have had the chance to reunite with you. After saying that, Frigga helped Loki up from the ground with one hand, and then took Hela and Thor in her arms. A loving mother and a filial son. This time it was a real loving mother and a filial son. The 4 of them hugged and laughed, which was extremely happy. Oh. In the end, I was a villain in vain. Seeing this scene, Ancient One had no face to stay any longer, and immediately disappeared in a flash. Marfa. There will always be a chance. Don't forget, Natalia is still in Camartage. Ancient One was very calm. After a long separation, the 4 of them naturally had endless family matters to talk about. Fortunately, they also knew that the current situation of Jotunheim has not been completely resolved, so they just talked about it briefly. Have you decided? So you want to go back to Asgard to be the king? Marfa said to Thor. No. It's not me, it's Loki. Now that Loki is dead, only Loki can become the God King to prevent the people of Jotunheim from rebelling. It can also better reconcile the relationship between Asgard and Jotunheim. And, to be honest, I am really not that kind of material. Loki is much smarter than me. I believe that if he becomes the God King, Asgard will definitely be better. Thor patted Loki on the shoulder and said. And what about Loki? After being patted by Thor, a blush appeared on his face. Emma. What's going on, this family? Marfa thought secretly in his heart. Loki, I heard that your dagger was dismantled from Mjolnir, right? Its material is the branch of the world tree. Marfa asked. Hearing this, Loki's face instantly darkened. You are bringing up all sorts of issues, right? However, the next second, Marfa took out Gungnir from his storage backpack. Now that Odin is dead, Gungnir is naturally ownerless. Therefore, Marfa is not worried that he will suddenly come back to attack him. As a gift for you to become the king of gods, I will give it to you. After all, This thing represents the royal power, and it is not appropriate to put it in my hands. Marfa said and handed the spear to Loki. Ah. This. Seeing this, Loki's face immediately showed an unconcealable joy. This is Gungnir. No, I will also have a divine weapon in the future. As if he thought of something, Loki immediately took out the ice box and his pair of daggers. Since it is a gift, there must be a return gift. Although this pair of daggers is not a magical weapon, it has accompanied me for many years. Just consider it as some thoughts. As for the ice box, this is the root of all evil. As long as Jotunheim is without it, there will naturally be no rebellion. Just consider it as a return gift to you. Loki is a wise man. Although he is not good at fighting, his IQ and EQ can definitely crush Thor and Hela. Earlier, Marfa asked about his daggers first, so naturally he had some ideas about it. Anyway, with Gungnir, he didn't need this pair of broken daggers, so of course he would make the best use of them and do a favor. After all, Marfa just saved Frigga, and this reason alone was worth Loki's gift of daggers. So, a happy transaction was reached. Both of them felt that they had made a big profit. Congratulations to the host for greatly deflecting the MCU plot. The system is settling, please wait. Just as Marfa took over the ice box and daggers, the system prompt sounded in his ears. Well, this is the first time in history that the system needs to settle before issuing rewards. Could it be that there are too many wishes and the system is stuck? Then my reward. End of Volume 3, Volume 4, Infinite Gems, Chapter 286 Version Update. It is detected that the host's current plot deflection degree has met the requirements. The system will update the version. Please wait. The system prompt sounded again in his ears, and Marfa's eyes flashed. The system is going to update? It seems that he has indeed brushed a lot of willpower this time. Monthly card. Seasonal card. Annual card. Just thinking about it, Marfa couldn't help but get excited. Version update completed. The new version will cancel the host's game time limit, and the ratio of game time to real-world time will be adjusted to 1:1. Settlement completed. Because the host has greatly deviated from the MCU plot, the host is rewarded with a hero template and 2 fire dragon hearts. Hero template. The host can give the hero template to anyone according to his own wishes. The character who obtains the hero template can enter the legendary game world like the host, fight monsters and upgrade, choose a profession, learn skills, and wear equipment. 50% of the experience gained by the host's hero will be automatically transferred to the host. Because the host currently has some game time left, the system will make the following compensation to the host. Compensation 1. Cancel the equipment requirement limit for 1 piece of equipment. Compensation 2. Reward the host with a weapon Red Blood Demon Sword X1, which has no equipment requirements and unlimited durability. Compensation 3. The host can use all summoning skills at the same time. The rewards have been distributed, please keep up the good work. Finally, the system prompt sound in my ear stopped. But Marfa was not calm. It's not a monthly card, not a quarterly card, and not an annual card. It's a lifetime card directly, can you believe it? In this way, with the ability of unlimited life, can't I stack the level to level that is enough to destroy the world? Of course, this is not the most important thing. The most important thing is that after the version update, I can actually have a hero. As we all know, a hero is almost equivalent to a second game player. In the previous life, the number of players gradually decreased with the outbreak of online games. In order to prevent the game from appearing empty due to the decrease in players. Therefore, the official developed the hero function. The so-called heroes in the game are almost the same as players, except that they are computer-controlled robots and will not take drugs actively. In this case, can't I bring someone to play games with me? Thinking of this, Marfa unconsciously began to select acquaintances in his heart. As for the heart of the fire dragon, that thing can be said to be a bond between the player and the hero. As long as the player and the hero wear the heart of the fire dragon, the heart of the fire dragon can automatically accumulate energy. Once the energy is filled, the combined attack skill can be used. Combined attack skill. Just listening to the name can tell its extraordinary power. Finally, Marfa set his sights on the only reward item this time. Red Blood Demon Sword Durability, Attack. 15-10, Magic. 4-3, Taoism. 4-2, Accuracy +1, Required level, none. As an old legendary player, Marfa naturally recognized this artifact. The reason why it is called an artifact is not because of how awesome the attributes of this weapon are, but because the difficulty of obtaining this weapon is simply outrageous. First of all, if you want to get this weapon in the game, the player must first beat another rare weapon Rakshasa. Then the player also needs to collect 6 different kinds of holy water. After collecting 7 kinds of props, the player can go to the hidden map Taoyuan Gate, summon the dragon, cough cough to find the NPC. The NPC will resmelt the 7 props and create the red blood demon sword for you. Of course, there is no free lunch in the world. The NPC will ask the player for 1 million gold coins as a reward. After doing all this, the player will find that he has been fooled. The red blood sword, which can only be worn at level 35, has almost no highlights in terms of attributes except that it increases attack, magic, and Taoism at the same time. Compared with other professional weapons of the same level, it is simply scum. More importantly, it is said that the red blood sword is infected by the evil power of the red moon demon, which makes it have a curse. Once equipped with a red blood sword, you can't get rid of its entanglement. The performance in the game is, you can't take it off after putting it on, and you can't equip other weapons until the player drops it after death, or the equipment automatically breaks when the durability is used up. And the red blood sword of Marfa has infinite durability. Well, this is obviously used to trick people. Imagine if this sword was given to Steve Rogers. Not to mention whether he would lose his mind because of the evil power on the red blood sword. Once he holds the hilt, he can only hold it for a lifetime, and he has to hold it for eating, drinking, defecating, and urinating. This is more solid than 502 glue. Even if he cuts off his sword arm, the red moon demon sword will automatically fly to his other hand and entangle him for life. The most important thing is that the red blood demon sword will exclude other weapons and equipment, which means that Steve will never be able to use a shield again. Looking at the long sword lying quietly in the backpack, the sword body is as red as blood, and it is full of demonic energy. Marfa couldn't help but shudder secretly. This is a pitfall. It would be better if it appeared earlier. Marfa thought secretly in his heart. If this sword was obtained 1 day earlier, then when fighting the destroyer, Marfa could completely stuff it into the destroyer's hand. In this way, it can still hold Gungnir. As long as the two cannot be combined, the destroyer is just a tin man with high defense and radiation. And Gungnir, without a carrier to use it, its power is difficult to fully exert. Alice. What a pity. Thinking of this, Marfa couldn't help but sigh secretly. People of Jotunheim. Loki Lofisen, come before you. I announce to you. The war is over. Just as Marfa looked dazed, Loki held Gungnir in one hand, slowly flew into the sky, and shouted to the remaining Jotunheim warriors. Loki, as the king of Jotunheim, you overestimate your own abilities and let everyone abandon their homes, the old and the young, and come to die. This is going against a trend. As his son, I have the obligation and responsibility to correct his mistakes and make up for them. Now, Loki Lofisen, the new god king of Asgard, the lord of the 9 realms, officially announces. I will inherit Loki's throne and rule Jotunheim. From now on, Jotunheim will be united with Asgard, and there will be no distinction between the two. From now on, the people of Jotunheim will no longer be exploited or oppressed. From now on, Asgard will be your second home. All the people of Jotunheim can come and go freely and reproduce in Asgard. With the power of Gungnir, Loki spread his voice throughout New York. For a time, all the ice giants, frost giants, mountain giants, wind giants, and even frost beasts in New York all bow down. Welcome to my king. Welcome to my king. Welcome to my king. The shout spread out like a tsunami. Why have the creatures on Jotunheim always been ambitious? They either want to invade the earth or take back the icebox to strengthen their own strength. Aren't they all forced? You must know that Jotunheim is different from Asgard and Earth. The entire Jotunheim domain is dark and cold all year round due to the lack of stellar radiation. This makes it difficult for ordinary animals and plants to survive in Jotunheim. In this way, the problem of food alone has greatly restricted the development and continuation of the race. On the one hand, they like cold living environments, and on the other hand, cold living environments mean a lack of food. This has led to the people of Jotunheim having to plunder constantly and fight to support their livelihoods. And what about Asgard? On the contrary. Because of the earth veins, Asgard is like spring all year round, and the population is sparse. They are simply unable to develop such a large area. In addition to the offerings from other divine realms besides Midgard, there is no doubt that the entire Aesir has never been troubled by food problems. And Loki becoming the king of Jotunheim has undoubtedly fundamentally solved the problems of insufficient population in Asgard and insufficient food in Jotunheim. The combination of the two and the exchange of what they have will undoubtedly enable the two tribes to achieve better development. It is for this reason that the warriors of Jotunheim had such a big reaction after Loki's declaration. For them, as long as they are frost giants, it doesn't matter who becomes the king. What matters is that they can let them and their descendants live better. Obviously, as the Lord of the Nine Realms, Loki lawfully and fully meets such conditions. Marfa, remember to come to Asgard to see Thor. You have helped Thor so much this time, you must give Thor a chance to thank you. Hela said. In fact, Hela wanted to stay. But Asgard still has her old subordinates who need her to resurrect, not to mention that after 1,000 years, Hela now has a lot to say to Frigga. Therefore, even if she is unwilling in her heart, she has no choice. Of course, Hela will never ask Marfa to go to Asgard to see her, which is the pride of being a goddess. But if it is to see Thor, then there is no problem. Ah. See me. Thor was confused. But after feeling the chill emanating from the sword of the night sky from behind, Thor immediately scratched his head. Yes, come to see me. I will definitely drink with you for 3 days and 3 nights. You know, my father, I mean that old guy Odin, has hidden a lot of fine wine. Ha ha ha. Chapter 287, The Free Country After the War. The Jotunheim army left in a rainbow of light. He waved his sleeves, leaving no cloud behind. Of course, the cloud was not taken away, but a completely destroyed city was left behind. The world will always remember this day, because in just one day, the city that was once known as the world's financial center and the world's commercial center was reduced to ashes. A week later, New York did not again enter the reconstruction in full swing. Of course, because New York was destroyed more thoroughly this time, the mayor of New York simply had a 3-party meeting with the governor and the president. An open bidding was launched worldwide, and the content of the bidding was how to build the World Center. Good guy. This time New York was unilaterally called the World Center, which was enough to show the ambition of the United States. New York, which had experienced the baptism of the storm, was devastated. There were only 4 buildings that survived. The first one, of course, was the Stark Industrial Building. With the support of the world's top defense system, although the Stark Industrial Building is located in the center of the battlefield, the only thing that is really affected is the glass of the building. Even so, it was shattered by the shock wave caused by the explosion of the missile launched by the Stark Industrial Building itself during the war. The second one is the Statue of Liberty on Liberty Island. Perhaps it is because of the remote location, or perhaps it is because of the blessing of some kind of will. In short, this 93-meter-high human-shaped statue has survived so magically. For a time, countless American people came to pay homage. The United States even set up a memorial for the victims of the incident on Liberty Island to express the whole country's remembrance of them. The third one is the New York Temple of Kamartaj. Of course, it is nominally a museum. No one knows how it survived, and everyone subconsciously ignored it. The one who can do this is naturally the Ancient One. As for the last surviving building, it is amazing. It is not the New York Mayor's Office building, nor the Empire State Building and the World Trade Center, nor is it the legendary technology of Marfa. It is an old villa located in Queens. Yes, this is the cottage where May Garfield lives. With the protection of the symbiote, Sandstorm, the yellow spider, Toby and the poisonous spider, Andrew, the Garfield family's cottage has become the 4th surviving building in New York City. When the news was announced, the whole world was in an uproar. People dubbed it the Lucky Cottage. Many Jebel bosses and geniuses with a keen sense of business came to visit and wanted to buy this old villa. However, the owner of the house, May Garfield, decisively refused. The reason for the refusal was, "I want to wait for Andrew to come back, he will definitely come back." May is very persistent and strong. In the absence of any supporting facilities, she was determined to live alone in the cottage. Without food, she went to look for it in the ruins. Without water, she filled the roof with various pots and pans. Without electricity, she lit candles at home. Even though the price of the house has been called up to $100 million, May has no intention of being tempted. The land certificates in the United States are all land ownership, not land use rights. The holder can enjoy the property rights of the land forever. As long as May is unwilling, let alone those tycoons, even if the president comes, they can't force it from her. Of course, all this is based on Andrew's secret protection. With Andrew, no matter who dares to have a bad idea about May, it will definitely not end well. Yonkers, compared with New York, is a little unfamiliar to most people. But as one of the cities closest to New York, Yonkers is much more lively than usual at this time. Not for anything else, just because it is close, a large number of New York refugees directly poured into the city. Like Marfa, the rich are naturally high-end hotels and luxury manors, and their daily lives seem to be completely unaffected. As for those who went bankrupt directly because of the destruction of New York, they became new members of the Yonkers slums. In the luxury suite of the Hilton Doubletree by Hilton Hotel in Tarrytown, Pietro lay on his back on the leather sofa, watching the news on TV, stuffing all kinds of pastries into his mouth. Oh, the school bombed. It's so nice not to have to go to school. Pietro sighed as he ate. Marfa. Wanda. Gwen. Nothing wrong. This is very Pietro. No, did I say you were a pig? You've been lying here for a week. Wanda said coldly. What can I do? Mom went to Nepal, and Dad was transferred to Tennessee. The three of us are not loved by our fathers and mothers. What else can we do except eating, drinking and watching TV here? Are you going to go out and shout, I'm a superhero? I saved New York. Come and worship me. Pietro sat up suddenly and said in an extremely exaggerated tone. Gwen, who was watching from the side, almost laughed to tears. But, Marfa, is it really okay for you to be with us? Did your legendary technology also get destroyed in this incident? Don't you plan to rebuild it? Gwen asked with some concern. What does it matter? We can also take this opportunity to give ourselves a break. Those people are not in a hurry, so why should I be in a hurry? The people that Marfa was talking about were naturally Nick Fury of S.H.I.E.L.D., Alexander Pierce of Hydra, and Mr. President. Obviously, Gwen didn't hear Marfa's hidden reference, and subconsciously regarded those people that Marfa was talking about as the big customers of legendary biotechnology. After all, Legendary Network Technologies servers are not only in New York, and the destruction of New York does not affect customers' games. Pierce didn't have time to look for Marfa at this time. Although Loki took away almost all the bodies of the Jotunheim warriors when he left, there were always some that were missed, plus the wreckage of the spacecraft, and alien technologies such as individual flying skateboards. At this time, Pierce was arguing with the U.S. military and the Institute of Science and Technology. What a joke, these are the capital for the rise of Hydra. And what about the president? In addition to various press conferences and handling refugee issues, he must personally intervene in the reconstruction of New York. Of course, the most important thing is to argue with countries around the world. Look, I beat the aliens away, am I awesome? Do you want to call me Big Brother? Also, this time, it was all our family's effort to beat the aliens away. If it weren't for our resistance, when the aliens hit your doorstep, wouldn't you have been destroyed? So, protection fees, sponsorship fees, hard work fees, etc. When do you think you can pay me? Good guy, it's a good thing Toby was not at the scene. If Toby was there, seeing this scene, his eyes would be full of stars. Talent. My spider gang is in need of talent like you. Collecting protection fees is so righteous, so righteous, so. However, things are not always as expected. As he spoke, Gwen's body suddenly softened and he fell down immediately. Fortunately, Marfa acted in time and used telekinesis to hold him up, otherwise he would have fallen face first. Then, accompanied by a burst of gunfire, the glass of the suite immediately shattered all over the floor. Countless hypnotic bullets were thrown in as if they were free. The next second, the door was kicked open. A group of fully armed agents rushed in one after another. They all wore gas masks and infrared thermal detectors, and the guns in their hands were models that had never been seen before. Just from their body movements and familiar formations, it was clear that they had simulated such scenes countless times. Chapter 288 Overthrowing SHIELD. Captain, there's no one. After a careful check, one of the agents immediately reported to the leader. No one? Look again. The space has been imprisoned by our technology. His space teleportation ability is definitely useless. Marfa Maximov has the ability to be invisible. Be careful. As soon as the voice fell, all the agents became alert instantly. Their fingers were tightly holding the trigger, ready to attack at any time. 10 minutes later. Captain, we have searched every corner. There is really no one. The target should have run away. The previous agent reported again. Damn, we have made all the preparations. Where are Marfa and others at this time? Of course, they are in the underground shelter of Legend Technology. The underground shelter was built by Adam and Ivan Vanko through engineering robots. No human beings participated in the entire project. The only people who knew about the existence of the underground shelter were Marfa's confidants. Just now, seeing Gwen fainted, Marfa realized that something was wrong at the first time. With the strength of the 3 people who are still awake in the room, Marfa asked himself, looking at the entire Earth, except Kamartaj and the mysterious East mentioned by Natalia. It is not difficult to deal with anyone. Even if Marfa is willing, he can walk into the Trident headquarters or the White House building openly, twist off someone's head, and then leave openly. But the problem is not just that. Let's not talk about Gwen's safety. Marfa lives in this world after all. Sometimes you have to consider your own retreat. If this causes panic in the world and becomes a public enemy, how will Marfa live in the future? It should be noted that people are always social animals. If they leave society and are self-sufficient, they are savages. Didn't you see that in the original plot, when Steven went to Kamartaj had Wi-Fi installed? Therefore, after seeing the unconventional weapons such as hypnotic bombs, Marfa's first thought was not to destroy the opponent completely, but to withdraw first, find out the mastermind behind the scenes, and use Marvel means to fundamentally solve the opponent. Just as Marfa had thought before, if he exposed his power and strength to the world, he would inevitably cause all kinds of troubles. The first to bear the brunt of it were the US government, S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra. Hydra was okay. For now, Marfa and Hydra had no conflict of interest, and Alexander Pierce had absolute trust in Dr. Zora, who changed his name to Adam. Unlike any other organization, Hydra not only has ambitions, ideals, and goals, but also has firm beliefs. The 2 Hydra forces headed by Pierce and Strucker believed in the original Red Skull John Schmidt. Just like the Christians' belief in God, this belief is almost blind. Dr. Zora, as the right-hand man of John Schmidt, is the closest to God for Pierce. Even though decades have passed, even though Dr. Zora's form of existence has long changed, Pierce still does not question Dr. Zora. Otherwise, in the original plot, how could Pierce unwaveringly trust the inside plan realized through Zora's algorithm? Since he has absolute trust in Zora, then Marfa, who has Zora's guarantee, is naturally the object of Pierce's trust. Otherwise, how could Pierce hand over the extremely important cosmic cube to Marfa for safekeeping? In addition to Hydra, the other 2 troubles are the US government and SHIELD. For Marfa, there is actually no difference between the 2. Let's talk about the US government first. Its ambition to dominate the world has long been known to passers-by. Since Marfa, Pietro and Wanda have shown unparalleled power in the previous New York War, then there is no reason for the US government to let this power go. It is not the case that the good boa is hidden when the birds are gone, and the running dog is cooked when the cunning rabbit dies, but if these 3 people are in hand, then on the road to dominating the world, the United States can definitely go more smoothly. Especially before the war, Marfa negotiated with the president. It seemed that the president finally gave in, but in fact, it also reflected that Marfa did not feel a sense of belonging to the United States. In this way, as long as the benefits are sufficient, it is hard to guarantee that other countries will not take advantage of Marfa in turn. Which person in power is willing to hang a sword over his head all the time? Finally, it is SHIELD. To be honest, Marfa can't trust Black Brazneg at all. Not to mention the black-bellied and suspicious character of Black Brazneg, nor the fact that Marfa is a member of Hydra, just the bad things Marfa has done, just one of them is enough to make Nick Fury overturn the table. It is precisely because of these concerns that Marfa decided to temporarily put aside the reconstruction of legendary technology and wait for the situation to develop with peace of mind. It should be noted that although legendary technology is still far from being comparable to those large conglomerates with strong foundations, the special nature of the various potions it produces makes legendary technology a special existence. No matter who dares to touch legendary technology, it will inevitably involve the interests of those big conglomerates. After all, who wants to die if they can live? There are only 2 possibilities for using the potion of legendary technology. The first time and the countless times. Who attacked me? I couldn't even use the teleportation ring just now. Marfa frowned and thought. The camera turned back to the moment when Gwen fainted. Marfa immediately used telekinesis to hug Gwen. Then he immediately wanted to use the teleportation ring to send everyone to a safe place before making any plans. But Marfa was surprised to find that the space of the suite where everyone was seemed to be imprisoned. The teleportation ring could not be activated. Fortunately, Marfa always carried the space gem. Although it would be much more difficult to use the space gem directly without the cosmic cube as a carrier. But Marfa has been holding the cosmic cube for quite a while. Moreover, he has rich experience in connecting space nodes. Therefore, a second before those agents broke into the room, Marfa finally successfully activated the power of the space gem and sent everyone to the underground shelter. Samuel, how is Gwen? Seeing that Samuel had completed the physical examination of Gwen, Marfa immediately stepped forward and asked. No problem, it's just a heavy dose of nerve paralysis toxin. The dose used by the other party is very small. Even if I don't take action, it can be metabolized by the body in 1 or 2 days at most. Samuel said. That's good, that's good. It seems that I have to think of a way to improve Gwen's strength. To prevent such accidents from happening again in the future. Marfa thought secretly in his heart. Master, after testing, Miss Gwen and Wanda have been installed with micro-positioning devices. I have successfully hacked into the other party's system and cleared the positioning traces. But just in case, I suggest you move the base first to avoid being exposed. Adam suddenly said. Good guy, you really came prepared. Can you confirm the other party's identity? Marfa asked. Although the other party deliberately induced information, I still found clues. If nothing unexpected happens, it should be SHIELD. Adam continued. SHIELD? Damn black salted eggs. How dare you touch my people? In an instant, Marfa's thoughts were filled with anger. Although Marfa had narrowed down the scope of suspects to SHIELD and the US government, he was still indignant after hearing Adam's confirmation. Since you are unkind, don't blame me for being unjust. Marfa gritted his teeth and said. Adam, how is Pierce's inside project going? Marfa asked with a fierce look in his eyes. Because of your investment and my full guidance, it will take about half a year to execute according to the original plan. If the master just needs to control SHIELD, as long as Steve and Bronski are dealt with, it can be done at any time. Adam's words made Marfa excited. In the original plot, when Pierce implemented the Inside Project, although he also regarded Captain America and Black Sauce Egg as the targets for early elimination, he did not attach as much importance to it as Adam does now. But after thinking about it, Marfa was relieved. No matter how charismatic Captain America is and how unscientific his strength is, he is just one person after all. If it were not for the plot, how could a mere Captain America subvert the entire SHIELD? But now it's different. Putting aside the 12 surviving Electric Warriors under his command, Bronski alone is troublesome. Rather than saying that Bronski uses the clone technique, it is better to say that he is a white Setsu. Each clone is a real entity, and each clone has similar strength, and can even transmit information to each other through inexplicable connections. As long as the real body is not solved and he is given enough time to split, Bronski can completely become an army by himself. With such a good friend to help, Steve is indeed in big trouble. Contact Pierce and let him activate the Winter Soldier. Let's move the base to Kamar Taj first. Besides, it's time for Tony to know the truth about his parents' death. This time, I will completely overturn SHIELD. Black Egg, just wait and see. Chapter 289, Eye of Agamotto. As the saying goes, a cunning rabbit has 3 burrows. After all, Marfa has been in this world for too short a time and his foundation is unstable. He is far inferior to Changlong in terms of foundation. If it is Changlong who is facing the attack of S.H.I.E.L.D. now, based on Marfa's understanding of him, Marfa believes that Changlong must have countless backups and can easily deal with similar problems. And what about Marfa? Now he has fallen to the point where he can only take shelter in Ancient One, which is very annoying. Of course, Marfa has carefully considered choosing Kamar Taj instead of Tony Stark, who has a better relationship with him, or Changlong, who has common interests. First of all, the strength of Kamar Taj is unquestionable. At least on Earth, it is invincible. Secondly, Kamar Taj does not care about racial disputes at all. As long as it does not endanger the balance of the universe, then Kamartaj is absolutely neutral. In comparison, Tony and Changlong are not so safe. It is easy to overthrow the shield in the open. Dealing with Captain America and Bronsky, it is enough to leave the rest to Pierce. But Marfa, who is familiar with the Marvel plot, would not think that Nick Fury is really that simple. Not to mention what that devilish pager means, the Skrulls behind Nick Fury alone are a big trouble. Since they have decided to overthrow SHIELD, of course they have to completely wipe out the nest of Black Braised Egg. Black Braised Egg must be killed, and the Skrulls cannot be spared. As for Aunt Marvel, wait, let's talk about it later. You have to eat one bite at a time, right? After calling his mother, who was still studying in Kamartaj, Marfa soon arrived at Kamartaj with the help of Natalia. As expected, Ancient One had been waiting for him here. Oh? I didn't expect that we would meet again in just 1 week. At this time, Ancient One had changed back into her usual blue-gray monk robe and greeted Marfa with a smile. Marfa had a headache. Indeed, Kamartaj is definitely the best place to avoid trouble temporarily, but to deal with the Ancient One. Sir Supreme Sorcerer, I think we can talk. Marfa said with an embarrassed look. Okay. Previously, the Ancient One wanted to discuss conditions with Marfa, but Marfa refused and went to find Changlong instead. It's been less than 10 days, and he has to come and talk to the Ancient One himself. Even if Marfa is thick-skinned enough, he feels a little embarrassed. In that case, then come in and sit down. I've been waiting for you for many days. The Ancient One is obviously not a petty person. He didn't mention the embarrassing thing that Marfa had done to her before, and took Marfa into the Zen room. The sandalwood is far-reaching, the fragrant tea is refreshing, and the Ancient One really knows how to enjoy it. Sitting on the futon, Marfa admired sincerely. All these fancy things are sponsored by Tony. The Ancient One said truthfully. Marfa, okay. This guy, flattering the horse's leg. Then I'll get straight to the point. I want a few of my friends to stay at Kamartaj for a few days, about 8 or 9 people. I wonder what Master Ancient One thinks. Ancient One didn't reply, but took a sip of the tea on the table. I'm not staying here for free. Like Tony, I can sponsor Kamartaj. Ancient One still didn't speak, and continued to drink tea. Okay. You win. Just tell me what you want. As long as I can do it, I will do my best. Facing the stubborn Ancient One, what else can Marfa do? There is no other way except to reveal his cards. Since ancient times, Kamartaj has never participated in disputes between races. It is precisely because of this that it can shoulder the mission and continue to this day. Your request can be said to be simple, or it can be said to be difficult. Because it requires us to break the established rules. But what? Marfa asked. But if you can help us complete our mission, we don't have to stick to the rules anymore. Ancient One said calmly, as if it was really a business negotiation. You mean, to deal with Dormammu? Marfa doubted his ears and said uncertainly. In terms of strength alone, Dormammu is definitely the ceiling-level existence of the MCU. Even Thanos is a younger brother compared to him. In the original plot, the reason why Stephen Strange was able to force Dormammu back was completely due to the needs of the plot. After all, the opponent is the master of the Dark Dimension. Even the Ancient One has to rely on the assistance of the 3 major temples and the Eye of Agamotto to barely resist Dormammu's invasion. Marfa even speculated that the Ancient One did not deal with Dormammu alone. The current situation is the result of the combined efforts of the Ancient Ones of many dimensions. After all, there is only one Dormammu, but there can be many Ancient Ones. It seems that you know everything. That's right. Since the predetermined fate has changed, and you are the root of it all. If you want to reverse everything, you must contribute. I know that you are probably not qualified now, but all I want is a promise. When that day really comes, you need to shoulder the mission of Kamartaj with Tony. Marfa. So you still want to retire early and quit? Shocked, really shocked this time. At first, Marfa only thought that the Ancient One wanted to join forces with him to deal with Dormammu. But just now, the Ancient One has made it clear, I want to retire. I quit. Want to move to Kamartaj? No problem. You and Tony will carry the banner for me. The Zen room suddenly became quiet. The Ancient One did not speak, but looked at Marfa quietly, waiting for Marfa to express his determination. And Marfa? He was also carefully weighing the gains and losses. After a moment. Okay. But I want resources. All the resources I can use in Kamartaj are at my disposal. I promise you that when that day comes, I will shoulder the mission of Camartage with Tony and Steven. Marfa said. Nowadays, Marfa has too many skills that meet the conditions for enhancement, but it cannot complete the skill enhancement due to the lack of enhancement materials. If Camartage can invest, there is no doubt that Marfa's strength will be greatly improved. The most important thing is that cooperating with the Ancient One is equivalent to a major change in the plot. As long as the plot is greatly changed, the world consciousness of Legend will inevitably gain a lot of willpower. Marfa and the world consciousness of Legend can be said to be prosperous together. If Legend gets benefits, Marfa will inevitably get benefits. In this way, under the combination of the two, and with the cooperation of Tony and Steven, it may not be impossible to fight Dormammu. Who knew that the Ancient One shook his head? Without Steven, it's just you and Tony. Although I'm curious why you said this name, history has changed. Since Vishanti has recognized Tony as the new Supreme Sorcerer, Mr. Strange can't take on the responsibility of Camartage, as you know. Originally, since Tony has become the person favored by Vishanti, he should take on all this. But you also know that Tony is not only partial to one subject, but also very arrogant. I am really a little worried about leaving everything to him. After saying that, the Ancient One took the Eye of Agamotto directly from his neck and handed it to Marfa. Do what you want to do, and then become powerful. After saying that, the figure of the Ancient One gradually faded and disappeared from Marfa's sight. Good guy. The Time Stone, got it? Wait. The status of the Eye of Agamotto in Camartage is equivalent to the status of Gungnir in Asgard. It is a symbol of power. In other words, now the entire Camartage is at my disposal? Chapter 290, Double Divine Power and Shinra. With the promise of the Ancient One and the Eye of Agamotto as a token, it can be said that in the entire Camartage, except for the Ancient One's boudoir, there is no place that Marfa cannot go. Of course, this also includes the library and the treasury. Moreover, as long as Marfa is willing, even if the treasury and the books are emptied, the Ancient One will not say anything. It feels so good to have power. Marfa thought so in his heart, and immediately asked Mordo to take him to the treasury of Camartage without stopping. That's it. Looking at the few sparse shelves in front of him, Marfa was simply speechless. If Mordo hadn't repeatedly confirmed that the treasury was like this, Marfa would definitely think that the Ancient One had moved the good things away in advance. Camartage has never had a so-called treasury. Even this place is just a storage room for magic items. Of course, some magic items will be displayed in the three major temples, waiting for the destined person. Although Mordo had some complaints about Marfa, a layman, being favored by the Ancient One, he was the most loyal believer and supporter of the Ancient One. Whatever the Ancient One said was the truth. Whatever the Ancient One did was right. Even in Mordo's opinion, the Ancient One's farts were fragrant. Poor black guy. Seeing Mordo constantly introducing those so-called treasures to him, Marfa couldn't help but think secretly in his heart. Now Marfa seemed to understand why Mordo resolutely chose to betray Camartage when he knew that the Ancient One continued his life by absorbing the power of darkness. It was all the pot of faith. What is this? Marfa pointed to a beautiful box on the shelf and said, Adamantine black ring. The black rings inside were all made by the Supreme Mage himself. There are rune formations engraved inside, which can help the mage communicate with Vishanti better. It can be said that it is a must-have for all mages to get started. Mordo said while showing a look of reverence. Marfa shivered when he saw it. What about these? Marfa pointed to a pile of bracelet-like things on the side and said, Ah, these. Seeing Marfa's expectant look, Mordo's old face blushed. These are my works, originally used to help those apprentices who are not talented enough to use mirror space magic to cast mirror space magic. However, the Supreme Mage said that the iron must be hard to forge, and excessive use of such props will make the mage dependent on it. Especially the mirror space magic. Once an accident occurs in the mirror space, causing the bracelet to be damaged, it will be difficult for the mage to return to the real world. Mordo said a little embarrassed. Marfa's eyes flashed instantly when he heard it. Good stuff. How do I use this thing? Marfa picked up a bracelet and put it on his hand and said, You must first learn to borrow magic from Vishanti, and then input it into the bracelet. You don't need to cast magic yourself, and you can directly open the mirror space. Mordo said this with his nose up. It was not because Marfa was interested in his work, but because of the pride of being a mage. In Mordo's opinion, Marfa was just messing around. Ancient One told him that Marfa could not communicate with Vishanti at all, and it was impossible for him to borrow power from Vishanti. Since he couldn't even borrow magic power, what would it matter if he was given all the props in this warehouse? Could he use them? I seem to be underestimated. Looking at the nostrils of the black guy in front of him, Marfa thought secretly in his heart. Then he saw Marfa's finger in front of him. Kalala. In an instant, the surrounding space shattered like a mirror. This. How is it possible? The Supreme Sorcerer clearly said that you have not been recognized by Vishanti and cannot borrow magic power. Looking at the mirror space that had already taken shape in front of him, Mordo felt that his three views were overturned. Could it be that the Supreme Sorcerer was wrong? At this moment, a very terrible thought emerged in Mordo's mind. Did the Supreme Sorcerer tell you that you can't use the magic of Kamartaj without borrowing magic power from Vishanti? Marfa said to Mordo, whose chin was about to drop to the ground. This. Before Mordo could answer, Marfa pointed his finger in front of him again, and a space door suddenly appeared in front of the two of them. Is this portal magic? No. No, I just saw it. You didn't draw a circle. Mordo kept nodding his head, as if he was glad that he had found evidence. So what? The great man said that no matter whether the cat is black or white, it is a good cat if it catches mice. Is my portal unstable? Or am I opening the door too slowly? Or is my trick not as hidden as yours? Marfa said with a smirk. This. He makes a lot of sense. I'm speechless. Mordo couldn't remain calm at this time. The other party said before that he didn't borrow magic power. In other words, the power he is using now is all his own power. I'm afraid even the Supreme Sorcerer can't do this. No wonder. No wonder. The Supreme Sorcerer would temporarily give him such a treasure as the Eye of Agamotto for safekeeping. It turns out that the magic talent of this guy in front of him is even stronger than Tony Stark. Thinking of this, Mordo's eyes flickered, and his eyes were full of complacency. After Tony came to Kamartaj, Ancient One arranged for Cassilis and Wang to guide him. Therefore, Tony can be said to be half of Cassilis' apprentice. For this reason, Cassilis boasted in front of Mordo. He said how much Ancient One liked him and actually gave him the most talented person in the world. But Mordo was too weak and could not bear the heavy responsibility given by Ancient One. This was absolutely unacceptable to Mordo, who was a fanatical fan of Ancient One. Now, Ancient One asked him to be responsible for Marfa, who was more talented than Tony. Doesn't that mean that Ancient One trusts him more than Cassilis? After thinking this through, Mordo looked at Marfa again, and there was no contempt in his eyes. He almost rushed up to hug Marfa and kissed her a few more times. You're right. It doesn't matter if the cat is black or white, as long as it catches mice, it's a good cat. Study hard, work hard, and you will definitely become the second greatest wizard of Kamartaj. Mordo came forward and patted Marfa on the shoulder and said, what's going on? Did Mordo take the wrong medicine? Why did he suddenly change his nature? Ignoring Mordo, Marfa immediately released a mirror space and returned to the treasure house. Then he picked up 2 mirror space bracelets and a sleeve engraved with the magic of the Wind of Wadham, and immersed his mind in the skill enhancement panel. The Wind of Wadham, Steven used it in Avengers 3. The effect is to create a gust of wind in front of you that blows everything over. Mirror space plus space gem energy crystal invisibility equals kaleidoscope God's right eye. Mirror space plus space gem energy crystal group invisibility equals kaleidoscope God's left eye. The Wind of Wadham plus Wanda's sanitary napkin Kigan wave equals Shinra Tensei. Of course, Marfa actually wanted to melt the Eye of Agamotto and Loki's dagger that carried the time stone. One of them could go back in time, and the other was a branch of the world tree with great vitality. If these two were added to the healing spell, the effect might be better than Changlong's horse spell. It is not impossible to extend the target's life by 1 year after healing once. But as long as he thought of the significance of the Eye of Agamotto to Kamartaj, Marfa was scared. It is certain that as long as he dared to do so, even if the Ancient One did not trouble him, other mages of Kamartaj would find ways to kill him. Anyway, the things were in his hands, so Marfa was not in a hurry. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 291 Planning for a Civil War. After getting what he wanted, Marfa had no intention of staying any longer. He immediately called Samuel, Ivan, Gwen, and the Banners through the portal to move all the things in the underground shelter to Camartage. Seeing their mother again, Wanda and Pietro were naturally very happy. Only Gwen was quite nervous. Although she had met Natalia before, she hadn't done anything with Marfa at that time. Now that she met her old friend again, Gwen felt like an ugly daughter-in-law meeting her parents-in-law. Fortunately, Natalia was an experienced person and was very satisfied with Gwen, and there was no tension between the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. After resolving his worries, Marfa immediately said goodbye to everyone. Next, it's time to settle accounts with a black salted egg. Marfa murmured in his heart, and immediately went directly to Pierce's office through the portal. But as soon as he appeared, Alexander Pierce was instantly startled and broke out in a cold sweat. He pressed a communication button in front of him, signaling Marfa not to speak. "Sitwell. I have something important to do. Please help me put off everything. Don't let anyone disturb me," Pierce said to the microphone in front of him. "I understand, Mr. Minister," Sitwell replied. Immediately, Alexander stood up from his chair, pulled down the curtains, and looked around again. He breathed a sigh of relief after confirming that everything was safe. "Why are you here? Did I ask Dr. Zola to inform you that it's best to disappear for a while recently? Nick Fury is looking for you all over the world," Pierce said with a little dissatisfaction. "I can't hide like this all the time, right? Tell me, what's going on? Why did Fury suddenly attack me? To be honest, I'm still a little confused until now." Marfa poured herself a glass of water, found a seat and sat down casually, without any look of being a subordinate. Fortunately, Pierce didn't have the mind to care about Marfa's attitude towards him at this time, and he didn't doubt Marfa because of this. He just thought that Marfa was dissatisfied with the fact that he was in danger because of his arrangements. Speaking of this, it was actually Sitwell's negligence. At the beginning, I asked him to place 20 electric warriors into SHIELD, but I didn't expect him to direct and act out a drama about a hammer-stimulating potential. So, Nick Fury found you who was in charge of this matter at the time. And the reason you gave was that Nick Fury occupied the hammer and attracted the hatred of aliens. Obviously, you are not a liar. Just from the scattered pictures of your New York battle, Nick Fury found a lot of loopholes. What's more, Steve Rogers is his eyes and ears, and he happened to participate in the battle with you. Of course, this is only one. The second is Bruce Banner. It's still the problem of the New York battle. The appearance of the Hulk, and later his fight with aliens to save you, but all were seen by Steve. With Nick Fury's sensitive sense of smell, it is not difficult to find that you and Banner have been in contact for a long time. You don't have to explain to me, I understand that all this is arranged by Dr. Zola. But next time you do something, can you use your brain? Isn't this obviously giving Nick Fury a reason to deal with you? Alexander Pierce said a lot in one breath, and Marfa was stunned. But he finally understood why he was targeted by the black salted egg. He only suspected these things, so he attacked me? Where is the evidence? I am not a soft person. Even if he is the director of SHIELD, he has to weigh it before he can touch me. Marfa said in a somewhat cold tone. Evidence? Aren't the potions of legendary biotechnology enough? If you need money, just ask the organization. What kind of industry is it, especially biotechnology? Bruce Banner disappeared, and you made the life potion right after. Just you? A high school student. Pierce said with some regret. Fortunately, Marfa has a strong fighting power and is loyal to Hydra, otherwise Pierce would definitely sell him to Nick Fury without hesitation, so as to prevent the organization from being exposed too early and causing unnecessary trouble. No one is perfect, and Marfa could not have known that this would expose himself. He is just a time traveler, an ordinary person who knows some plots and has a golden finger. He is not a prophet, nor is he the kind of person with an IQ that is abnormal. In the Battle of New York, Hulk appeared. Is it Marfa's fault? Marfa had already arranged for Bruce Banner to hide in the underground shelter and not come out. On the one hand, of course, it was to protect Gwen, and on the other hand, it was also to consider the risk of exposure. But who would have thought that Hela's power would cause Hulk to run away, and thus join the battle regardless of Marfa's arrangement? As for the liquid medicine of legendary biotechnology, it really has nothing to do with the Hulk. It's just taking a small bottle and mixing it with pure water. How difficult is it? A high school student can do this? Black Salted Egg made up his mind by himself, And blamed me? Marfa was so frustrated. You risked your life to see me for the truth? Well, I've told you the truth. I'll try to arrange for you to leave now. Also, be careful. Nick Fury has used the Cosmic Cube to research a lot of cross-era technologies and energy weapons without telling me. Don't get yourself into trouble. Pierce obviously still attaches great importance to Marfa. In Pierce's opinion, the Trident headquarters is too dangerous for Marfa. If it is accidentally exposed, Marfa will easily fall into Nick Fury's hands. Don't worry about it. I can come quietly, so I can leave quietly. I came to see the minister this time for the truth. On the one hand, it's for the truth. On the other hand, it's also what Dr. Zola meant. As Marfa's voice fell, the projection equipment in Alexander Pierce's office began to operate automatically. Then Adam's figure appeared in front of the two. Pierce. You can see that both Bronsky and Steve are great obstacles to the implementation of our plan. To ensure the smooth implementation of the Inside Plan, we must first eliminate these two threats. Adam said in a deep voice. Doctor, I know that too. Steve is easy to deal with. His thunderbolts are all our people, and we can deal with him at any time. But Bronsky is very troublesome. Since the Battle of New York, Bronsky has hidden himself. Now no one knows which one is his real body. Pierce rolled his eyes at Marfa, obviously blaming him for not protecting his genes, which led to Ross creating Bronsky. I have a win-win plan. It can not only allow Marfa to walk in the world openly again, but also get rid of Bronsky and Steve. It can also keep the organization out of the matter to prevent exposure. Adam said. Oh? As expected of Dr. Zola, I am all ears. Alexander Pierce was stunned, and immediately said happily. Don't forget that we have the Winter Soldier in our hands, James Buchanan Barnes. As a close friend of Steve Rogers, what do you think Steve will do? Of course, he will come forward to protect him and then seek the truth. Pierce said without hesitation. What about Emil Bronsky? Don't forget that he is from the military, and he has a strong sense of belonging to the United States, and he also has the honor of being a soldier. It's hard to say, but there is a high probability that he will. Pierce continued. What if we tell Tony Stark that Bucky killed Howard and Maria? Adam continued to ask. Tony wants to kill Bucky for revenge, Steve wants to protect Bucky, and Bronsky can't bear Steve to make a mistake, so he will stop him. Steve is forced to use the Thunderbolts, and then, good. In this way, not only can Bronsky and Steve be dealt with openly, but the Electro Warrior can also be taken back and Nick Fury can be dragged into the water, and Marfa can also step out of the shadows again. This is not a win-win strategy, it is clearly a one-stone four-birds strategy. No wonder the doctor asked me to activate the Winter Soldier before. Pierce said happily, and he was even more impressed by Dr. Zola in his heart. As for Marfa, the corners of her mouth were slightly raised. There is no doubt that the strategy that Dr. Zola mentioned was proposed by Marfa. With the plot of Captain America 3 as a reference, it can be slightly adjusted according to the current situation. Black Braznag, can you still stay out of this civil war? Chapter 292, Revealing the Truth. Camartage. Tony Stark's exclusive laboratory. Just like your aunt is always your aunt, your uncle is always your uncle, and the dog owner is always Tony Stark. Before entering the laboratory, Marfa has already smelled the stench of money. If nothing else, take a look, the fully automatic tempered frosted glass door, face recognition device, fresh air system, constant temperature system, constant humidity system. You have to know that this is only the end of 2010, let alone face recognition. Even fingerprint recognition has not been widely used. What's more, this is Nepal, an economically backward agricultural country. Looking at Kathmandu, let alone factories, there are not many cars. Is it necessary to install a fresh air system? Isn't the sea breeze of the Indian Ocean fragrant? Hello, Mr. Maximov, I didn't expect us to meet here. Jarvis has become more and more humane recently. Obviously, Tony has made a lot of upgrades to him during this period. Hello Jarvis, Tony is in there. Marfa asked. Of course, although the gentleman said that no one is allowed to disturb him, you are obviously not one of them. After that, the door opened directly. Looking at the various modern equipment inside, and then looking at the quaint temple style outside, Marfa couldn't help but twitch his eyes. He is worthy of being Tony Stark. Following Jarvis's guidance, Marfa went straight to the laboratory. Unlike Tony, who used to hold a wrench and a screwdriver, Tony at this time was facing a large engraving device, constantly adjusting the array pattern that needed to be engraved. And in the center of the device, there was a shining gem. "Tony, what are you doing?" Marfa pointed at the gem and asked curiously. "Marfa? Ha ha ha. Are you here to see me?" Tony Stark said this, and it was obvious that he had been immersed in magic research for a long time recently and had not come out of retreat. Otherwise, with Tony's skills, it would be impossible for him not to know that Marfa was on the wanted list of S.H.I.E.L.D. "I guess so. I'm definitely here to see you." Marfa approached the glittering gem and looked at it curiously. "You can look at it, but don't move. It's unique. I'm sure there's no other one in the world," Tony said proudly. "Oh? What's so special about this gem? Radioactive material? Or is it a treasure of Kamartaj?" Tony's words made Marfa even more curious. "This gem can be said to be me. I call him Anthony. He is separated from my soul. Through it, I can borrow magic power from Vishanti even without controlling it myself. In this way, I can devote myself to research without having to worry about magic supply while studying the array," Tony said. "Soul? Separation? Damn it. You are courting death. Don't you know that if there is a mistake in the soul, you will be dead?" Marfa said in shock. "No. I think it's good. And I can take it back into my body at any time, so I will be complete again." After saying that, Tony immediately put down the work in his hands and waved at the gem. The gem immediately flew directly to Tony Stark as if it was attracted, and then merged into his body. Marfa. As expected of a man who can replace Steve Strange, this skill is definitely worthy of the Ancient One's high regard. But just when Tony was proud, his eyes fell on the eye of Agamotto hanging on Marfa's chest. "You. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Even if I wanted to study that thing at the beginning, the Ancient One refused. How could it appear on you? It must be fake." "Fake?" Tony said in disbelief. "Sir, in fact, the Ancient One gave the Eye of Agamotto to Mr. Maximoff a few days ago, and this matter has spread all over Kamartaj. Because you have been concentrating on research recently, I didn't disturb you," Jarvis explained. "So, you are my junior brother," Tony said suddenly with a slight smile on his face. "Good junior brother, hurry up and give me that thing. I just want to study its internal structure and array." Marfa. "Good guy, how did I become your junior brother? Have some shame, please. This thing is not good, but I have something else for you. And I haven't joined Kamartaj. I can't bear the title of junior brother. If you have to care about it, I am a guest elder of Kamartaj." "Elder, do you understand?" "Magic apprentice Mr. Tony Stark." Marfa refused decisively. Tony was not as disappointed as he imagined when he heard it. Obviously, although Tony was very curious about the Eye of Agamotto, he just wanted to study it. As for whether he was a junior brother or an elder, Tony didn't care much. "So I call you an elder and bow to you. Do you dare to accept it? Can you bear it? If you dare to accept it, I dare to cheat on your father. I will let you call me Godfather directly. Do you believe it?" Since the focus is not on the Eye of Agamotto and the title, then there is no doubt that Tony's focus must be on what Marfa said about giving him something. Marfa has never let Tony down. Looking at the experience after the two met, no matter what Marfa gives Tony, it will definitely not be a simple thing. "Adam." "Understood, Master." As Adam's voice sounded, the projector in Tony's room turned on automatically. Then a blurry video appeared in front of everyone. The video quality was quite bad, and it felt like some old film. The most important thing was that the video was still black and white. Seeing this, Tony instinctively frowned, and his face was full of doubts. Until he saw the string of numbers in the lower left corner of the video, his eyes suddenly widened, and the whole person rushed to the video screen. 1991, 12, 17, 22, 13. December 17, 1991. Yes, this was the day when the Howards died unexpectedly. Tony will never forget that day. Soon, a white car appeared in the video. Tony recognized it as his father's car at first sight. However, the next second, a motorcycle rushed out from behind the car and stopped it. Then, a man wearing a half-mask got off the motorcycle. The video was blurry and the masked man's appearance was completely unclear, but it did not prevent Tony from understanding the cause of his parents' death. The picture played frame by frame, and Tony's eyes were filled with blood. Pa. When the video was completely finished, Tony was already kneeling on his knees, with tears in his eyes. So, This is the truth. They didn't die in an accident. Tony murmured secretly. The next second, Tony suddenly stood up and grabbed Marfa's collar. Tell me, who is that man? Don't tell me you don't know. Since you can get this video, you must have information about that man. Tony roared madly. I'm sorry, I really don't know. This is the video data I got from inside S.H.I.E.L.D. This data is kept very secret and is not even connected to any network. I think this must be a precaution made by Nick Fury, who is worried that you will invade the S.H.I.E.L.D. network. Marfa broke away from Tony's hand and said helplessly. Yes, this data is indeed from S.H.I.E.L.D. It was indeed saved by Nick Fury after disconnecting from the network. The highest level of lying is 9 truths and 1 lie. In order to prevent Jarvis from seeing the flaw, Marfa practiced it in front of Adam for a long time. Nick Fury? Why would he do this? Even his S.H.I.E.L.D. is my old man's industry. Tony also realized that he was too excited and asked immediately. I don't know, I am also investigating this, and I have even been listed as a wanted person by S.H.I.E.L.D. for this. Yes, I actually came here to seek refuge. Do you understand what seeking refuge means? Wanted? You? Aren't you a level 9 agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.? How could it be? Tony was even more uneasy now. Although Tony Stark and Marfa have a big age difference, for various reasons, Tony never treated Marfa as a child after getting to know him. To use the Eastern words, this is a friendship without regard for age. But now, his best friend is wanted because of this information. Inexplicably, Tony seems to smell a strong smell of conspiracy. Chapter 293 Hydra Nick Fury. Sir, Mr. Maximov is right. I have just confirmed what he said by hacking into the intelligence network of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, Marfa Maximov's name is indeed on the wanted list. Moreover, the reason for the wanted list has not been made public. It is only stated in the note that this person is extremely dangerous. If you find him, you must report it immediately. Jarvis said. What did you find? Tell me. According to my understanding of you, if it was just a video file, you would not come to me immediately. Tony calmed down and immediately regained his wisdom. After taking a few deep breaths, he spoke. I will not elaborate on my own point of view, but only talk about what I know. First of all, Nick Fury has always been committed to establishing the Avengers. I, Wanda, Pietro, and of course you're all Nick Fury's recruiting targets. Since she wanted to fool Tony, Marfa certainly couldn't tell him the answer directly. If she was too straightforward, it would make Tony wary. Yes, I did receive multiple calls from Nick Fury. Have you ever thought about it? Why the Avengers? And not S.H.I.E.L.D.? He is the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Could it be that he doesn't trust himself? Marfa continued to guide. I have actually thought about this. S.H.I.E.L.D. is affiliated with the United Nations Security Council and is restricted by the Security Council in many matters. Even as the director, he can't do whatever he wants. Tony analyzed. Yes, Nick Fury was promoted by Alexander Pierce, the head of the Security Council. In the past, no matter what he did, Pierce was very supportive of Nick Fury. Until he discovered something. Marfa paused for a moment. Adam. Got it, Master. After that, the information about Nick Fury's research on energy weapons using the Cosmic Cube was immediately presented to Tony Stark. This is the Cosmic Cube. World War II, the Red Skull, John Schmidt, energy weapons. Looking at the information in front of him, Tony immediately clenched his fists. Damn it, he actually wants to bring this cross-era thing back to the world. As an arms dealer, Tony could easily see the clues from this information. It is conceivable that once this cross-era energy weapon reappears in the world, it will inevitably cause a crushing blow to the current weapon system. By then, no matter who gets this power, it is bound to start a world war. At this moment, Tony seemed to see a sea of blood and corpses. This was more dangerous than the Jericho missile he had made. Minister Pierce discovered that Nick Fury was researching energy weapons, so he put pressure on the Security Council and forcibly took back the Cosmic Cube. Not long after, Nick Fury began to plan to establish the Avengers. Marfa continued to explain the facts. Because he felt threatened? So he felt that S.H.I.E.L.D. was unreliable and wanted to establish a force that truly belonged to him. Tony responded quickly. Emo Bronsky, a superpowered person created by General Ross's research team based on my genes and combined with the super soldier serum, Splinter. Steve Rogers, the first beneficiary of the super soldier serum, is Captain America. Clinton Barton, nicknamed Hawkeye, is nothing compared to him. Natasha Romanoff, nicknamed Black Widow, is a top agent from the Red Room. Of course, there are 12 Electric Warriors, who currently form the Thunder Special Forces with Steve. These are all members of the Avengers we have met before. Marfa continued. Hiss. I didn't think this so-called Avengers was so strong before, but after Marfa listed the information in detail, even Tony couldn't help but take a breath. Unknowingly, Nick Fury has already mastered such a large team, especially Bronski, who is a one-man army. Thinking of this, Tony immediately equated Nick Fury with the word dangerous. Wait? You mean? Finally, Tony seemed to realize something and suddenly opened his eyes wide. What if Nick Fury or his organization had some unknown purpose? First, he killed the Howards and got the super soldier serum, and concealed the real cause of death. Then he joined SHIELD, sought a high position, and tried to control SHIELD. After getting the cosmic cube, he studied energy weapons. After being discovered and taken back by Alexander Pierce, he planned to establish the Avengers. When Marfa discovered the real cause of death of the Howards, he directly ordered a wanted order to prevent the matter from being leaked. Originally unrelated things, but if they are connected, it is difficult not to have reverie. Sure enough, thinking about this, Tony thought more and more that Nick Fury was wrong. But why do you do this? Or what does he want? It can't be to rule the world. Tony frowned and thought. There is no such thing as bad without reason, nor is there any such thing as good without reason. Everything must be reasonable, right? Just like Purple Sweet Potato, they act under the banner of maintaining the balance of the universe. Why? Hearing this, Marfa couldn't help but reveal a thoughtful expression. Oh no. This is not within my script. I didn't rehearse it before. What should I do? How should I answer Tony to continue to pour dirty water on the black salted egg? Waiting online. It's urgent. Marfa was a little uneasy. Shouldn't Tony come up with a conclusion that the black salted egg is the villain? How could he raise such a constructive and philosophical question? This script is wrong. Why are the bad guys bad? How the hell do I know? Fortunately, Marfa was quick-witted. After thinking for a while, he came up with a reason to continue fooling around. Of course, in order to prevent uncontrollable factors from continuing to appear, Marfa also started the big fooling technique at the same time. It's the same energy weapon, the same cosmic magic cube, and the same super soldier. Why do I feel that Nick Fury is following the old path of the Red Skull? Marfa said casually. Speaking of which, did S.H.I.E.L.D. have a paperclip project in the past, with the goal of recruiting the remaining members of Hydra? If Marfa knew the principle of stopping at the right point, so she had said enough. Jarvis, pull up all the information on the paperclip project. Tony Stark immediately called out after hearing this. Yes, sir. As soon as he finished speaking, all the information on the paperclip project immediately appeared in front of Tony. After checking it out, Tony's expression suddenly became clear. I understand. Nick Fury is a member of Hydra. The paperclip project seems to be a way to get the remaining forces of Hydra back on track and shine for the development of the world. But don't forget that Hydra is an organization with faith. It is so difficult to convert them. It's like converting a Christian to Buddhism. As the saying goes, it's easy to change a country, but it's hard to change one's nature. It's hard to guarantee that some Hydra members recruited into S.H.I.E.L.D. will not have some plans, and Nick Fury is likely to be absorbed by them. Tony said affirmatively, slapping the table. No way. Maybe it's just a coincidence. We don't have any evidence. These are just your inferences. Seeing that the effect was achieved, Marfa immediately retreated to advance, and first of all, he cleared himself of all the blame. That's right, I said, these are all your inferences. It has nothing to do with me. If the matter is exposed in the future, you will take the blame yourself, don't blame me. Huh? Stupid. Tony heard this and immediately scolded angrily. Aren't you always very forward-looking? Why are you so hesitant now? Nick Fury clearly wants to use the power of S.H.I.E.L.D. to restore the glory of Hydra. Researching weapons, forming a small team of superpowers, and blocking the cause of my parents' death, isn't this obvious? In my opinion, since you have discovered the matter, in order not to lose the initiative, he is afraid that he will not be able to sit still. Tony said coldly. Sir, the White House was attacked by unknown persons. Mr. President was just taken hostage. According to the video footage retrieved from the scene. The leader. Obviously, Jarvis has indeed had a high emotional intelligence after Tony's upgrade this time. If it were in the past, he would definitely state the situation directly, but now, he actually spoke hesitantly like a human. Is the leader a member of the Avengers? Let me guess. Is it Barton or Natasha? Tony said very confidently. Why not Bronski or Steve? Marfa also became interested and asked immediately. It's impossible for them. Don't forget, they are both from the US military. Even if they were brainwashed by Nick Fury, it would be difficult for them to do such a thing as holding the president hostage. And Barton and Natasha were agents in the past. Except for Hill, well, and you, the other agents are not good people. It is completely reasonable for them to do such a thing. Tony was still decisive, obviously very confident in his judgment. Sir, I'm afraid you are wrong this time. I just analyzed the video given by Mr. Maximoff. Although it is impossible to confirm because of the long time and the aging of the data, the leader of the hostage-taking of the president this time is 80% similar to the murderer who killed your parents. Jarvis hesitated for a while, and finally said, What? In an instant, Tony was like a cock with its feathers blown up, and he lost his composure in an instant. Good man, what did you just say? Nick Fury is going to take action, right? So soon? You see, my reasoning has always been very accurate, and Nick Fury can't sit still. I want to save people and send the damn murderer to see my parents. What do you say? Tony said as he picked up his transformation belt and buckled it around his waist. S.H.I.E.L.D. Trident Headquarters. Director, it's bad. The White House has been attacked and the president has been held hostage by unknown persons. Sitwell rushed into Nick Fury's office and said in a panic. What does it have to do with me? We at S.H.I.E.L.D. are only responsible for handling special events. This kind of terrorist attack is not within our scope of responsibility. Nick Fury said calmly. But according to the monitoring analysis, the other party is likely to be a superpower. The White House Defense Force is simply vulnerable in their hands. Sitwell continued. What? Nick Fury stood up immediately. Call someone, you must call someone. A superpower attacking the White House is completely different from an ordinary person attacking the White House. If things are not handled in time, once things ferment, it is conceivable that leaders of countries around the world will be in danger. At that time, S.H.I.E.L.D., which is responsible for special events, will inevitably become the cusp of the storm and the target of public criticism. Shake the Splinter Cell? Shake Captain America? Shake Hawkeye? No. This time, all of them must be sent out. Only in this way can the importance of this matter be reflected. Chapter 294, Captain America Attacks. The Trident headquarters of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the White House are both in Washington, and the two are not far apart. But in order to separate the power in his hands from S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury has already set up the Avengers building in Georgia. There's even funding from Marfa. It's ridiculous to say that the relationship was still good not long ago, but Marfa was put on the wanted list in the blink of an eye. This is the legendary that there are no absolute friends, only absolute interests. Marfa's series of mysterious operations obviously touch Nick Fury's interests. Turning against each other at any time has always been a basic skill of agents. Normally, if you want to go from Georgia to Washington, it is a long journey. But it just happened. As the Meow Hammer went back with Thor, Steve also lost the power of thunder. But is it really completely lost? Even though Steve didn't hold the Meow Hammer for a long time, the power that originally belonged to Thor still optimized and transformed Steve to a great extent invisibly. Although it is far from the level of being used for combat, at least it is no problem to make a few diodes glow. To describe it with parameters, Steve now has about 20 to 30 volts of voltage. It is well known that voltages below 24 volts are almost harmless to humans, and voltages below 36 volts are also difficult to cause harm to humans. But this is a new ability after all, isn't it? The Avengers building is still under construction, and there are no professional researchers and related human body detection facilities at all. Therefore, Steve and his 12 Thunder Special Forces members are being studied at the S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters. That's right, it's research. According to Clark and Sitwell's report at the time, the Electro Warriors, like Steve, gain power from the Meow Hammer. If there was no Steve, and only the 20 peripheral members of S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury would definitely have doubts about this. However, Steve picked up the Meow Hammer and also gained the ability to control lightning. Although it is very different from the Electro Warriors, the external performance is very similar. This also dispelled Nick Fury's concerns. But what about now? Steve has lost his hammer, and the power he gained has almost disappeared. If Steve could not be used as a number 5 battery at this time, Nick Fury would definitely doubt Sitwell and Clark. In order to find out what the power of Steve and the Electric Warriors is, Nick Fury immediately brought all the members of the Thunder Special Forces to SHIELD for research. After all, that is the power of Thor, the god of thunder in Norse mythology. If it can be popularized on a small scale, he can completely upgrade the Thunder Special Forces to the Thunder Defense Force. Just imagine, right from the start, they throw lightning at you all over the place, and ask you if you are afraid. Well, it would be fine if it wasn't studied. Once it was studied, Nick Fury was stunned. The Electric Warriors are afraid of water? Even when taking a shower, they can only wipe it with a wet towel. Otherwise, it will short-circuit directly. And what about Steve? Although he is not afraid of water, he is afraid of electricity. That's right, Steve is afraid of electricity. Any electric warrior, with an electric ball, can knock Steve out. Can you believe that a lightning superpower is afraid of electricity? The electrical reactance is almost the same as that of ordinary people. Fortunately, Steve has a shield, so this is not a fatal problem for him. But this is very strange. They are obviously abilities of the same origin. Why are they so different? Nick Fury was very curious about the answer, but unfortunately, almost all the researchers in S.H.I.E.L.D. were Hydra. In order to protect Sitwell and Marfa, they tactfully stopped the research progress. The door of the S.H.I.E.L.D. laboratory was opened. Nick Fury was seen wearing a black leather windbreaker, a black leather eye mask, and a black skin. In short, it was very black. He walked straight in. "Captain, I have an urgent task for you." As soon as he came in, Nick Fury went straight to the point without paying attention to the large number of tubes connected to Steve. "Are we going to go out again? This era is really not peaceful." Steve sat up from the laboratory table and sighed. The White House was attacked by a suspected superpower, and the president was held hostage. "Captain, the fate of the entire United States is now in your hands." Nick Fury began to care about the fate of the United States, as if it was not him who said "it's none of my business" before. Hearing that the president was held hostage, Steve immediately showed a shocked expression. "Are you kidding? Is this how superpowers of this era jump? You know, the Red Skull John Schmidt was just attached to Hitler." "I understand, I'll go now." Steve immediately picked up his battle suit and shield from the side and called out, "Guys, come to work." With this, the 12 electric warriors immediately sat up. But no one noticed that behind Nick Fury, Sitwell secretly made a gesture. The electric warriors understood instantly. The White House Square. At this time, there was already smoke. Bucky carried the knocked-out president on one hand and held an energy weapon in the other, constantly sweeping back the attacking White House guards. Around him, there were more than a dozen people like Bucky, all masked, holding energy weapons, and constantly shooting. There is no doubt that these energy weapons are Atom's masterpieces. After all, when he was under Schmidt, this thing was developed by him. Now, it just needs to be adjusted according to the energy weapon created by Nick Fury. Since you want to throw dirty water, you have to make it realistic. After all, neither Marfa nor Atom and Pierce are easy to deal with. Since you have decided to do it, you must do it to perfection. The firepower of the two sides seems to be very different, but the fact is that the White House guards not only did not dominate with the advantage of terrain, but even the advantage of numbers could not be brought into play. The gap is too big. The White House guards, as the most sophisticated special forces in the world, can easily defeat 10 of them with one member. The weapons and equipment in their hands represent the face of the United States. Normally, let alone a team of more than a dozen people, even if 1,000 people attacked, they would only die in vain. But who are they facing? They are elite agents cultivated by Hydra with countless resources. One person may be slightly inferior to Black Widow, but this is a team of more than a dozen people. Just imagine how strong a dozen Black Widows will be together. This is not counting Bucky's own combat power. And they are equipped with energy weapons developed through the energy crystals of the Cosmic Cube. What armored vehicles, what explosion-proof shields. One shot will directly turn you into ash. If it were not for the limitation of the material of the gun itself, which could not fire continuously, I am afraid that the White House guards would have been wiped out at this time. Boom boom boom. Boom boom boom. A helicopter quietly hovered above the White House. Obviously, this was Bucky's backup. As long as he got on the helicopter, it would be even more difficult to take back the president. Seeing this, the captain of the guard frowned immediately. RPG. Take out the RPG quickly. At 6 o'clock, hit the target. At 8 o'clock, half a meter below the target. At 5 o'clock, 1 meter below the target, 1 second interval. Prepare to shoot in sequence. The captain of the guard ordered. If the helicopter was fired according to his command, it would definitely be completely broken up, and it would be impossible for the president on the top floor of the White House to be injured due to the fall. Of course, it is hard to say whether the eardrums were broken by the shock wave of the explosion. But is it the time to care about this? If the president is injured, the worst case is to replace him, but if he is taken hostage or dies in the hands of the other party, it will be a shame for the United States. As the captain of the White House Guard, he will never allow such a thing to happen. Chapter 295 Goodbye Old Friend. Squeak, squeak, squeak. With a circle of sparks flashing, a space portal suddenly appeared in front of the White House Guard. Since you can't do it, why don't you let me try? At least we don't have to demolish the White House, right? I don't want my taxes to be used to repair the house. There is no doubt that the person who spoke was Tony Stark. He was covered in a set of armor made entirely of magic power. On his belt, the blue light of the arc reactor flashed, and combined with the golden red color of the armor itself, it looked particularly dazzling. Tony, has no one told you? You are like a 1000-watt light bulb? Marfa's teasing voice came from behind. Steel, Iron Man. A member of the White House Guard said. No, no, no. Please call me Magic Steel Man. Tony said very arrogantly. The next second, Tony slapped his hand on his belt and 4 scarlet chains shot out from his back. But the scarlet chain with sparks flickered like a spirit snake, twisting and turning, and in the blink of an eye it was already wrapped around the landing gear of the helicopter. The next second, the chain swung violently, and immediately threw the helicopter to a higher place. Then Tony raised his hands high, and 2 pulse cannons shot out from his palms. The helicopter was blown into pieces on the spot. Boom! In the sky, an explosion sounded, followed by sparks flying. The wreckage of countless helicopters fell to the ground like fireballs. Seeing that the fireballs were about to hit the crowd, Tony's palm slapped his belt again. The wind of autumn. The next second, a strong airflow burst out from Tony's chest, blowing the fireballs into a small lake not far away. How is it? My demon god armor. Isn't it awesome? Tony complacently gave a thumbs up to Marfa behind him. For a moment, Marfa felt as if he saw a green figure. Blind. Blind. I can't see anything. Marfa roared in his heart. At this moment, beams of azure rays came from the window of the White House. There is no doubt that it must be the Hydra agent who found Tony and pulled the trigger on him. It happened in a flash. Marfa threw a talisman at Tony. Ghost shield. In an instant, the blue giant ape light and shadow turned into a tail and condensed behind Tony. Then I saw that the tail was like a long whip, bringing a trail of after images, and instantly absorbed those energy beams. Not very good. If it was Jarvis, it would definitely be able to find those little mice in advance. Marfa opened his mouth to attack. Humph. Do you think I can't use Jarvis like this? As he spoke, Tony's pupils flashed with golden light, and his pupils instantly turned golden. Contact lens display, earlobe embedded microbone conduction speakers, learn about it. Don't underestimate me, Tony Stark. Tony continued to brag. MMP dog owner. Marfa was completely speechless. Is this the Iron Man that evolved from Iron Man in magic? It's really infuriating. Marfa whispered in his heart. Sir, the location has been completed. Please shoot manually according to the guidance. At this time, Jarvis's voice sounded in Tony's mind. Well, Tony didn't say this. Because Jarvis couldn't control the magic armor for Tony, all shooting had to be done by Tony alone. After practicing shooting skills for a while, it was obvious that Tony Stark, a master of weapons manufacturing, had no talent for shooting. It was for this reason that Tony invented the contact lens display. In this way, although Jarvis couldn't control the armor for Tony, he could help him with auxiliary aiming through the sensor implanted in Tony's wrist earlier. It works. The effect is exactly as I expected. Tony said in his heart. He immediately waved his hand and aimed directly at a window of the White House. Boom. The golden energy pulse cannon shot out. The first target was Bucky, the Winter Soldier who held the president hostage. However, this time Tony did not have it as smooth as he expected. Bucky threw the president to the ground, raised his mechanical arm, and caught Tony's energy pulse cannon with one hand. The powerful energy shock wave immediately raised a cloud of dust, covering Bucky's figure. But through the electronic eye, Tony could clearly see the figure in the dust without moving at all. How is it possible? Tony Stark's face immediately showed an unbelievable look. However, when the dust dissipated, a masked man was seen, holding a mechanical arm horizontally, with cold eyes. Mechanical arm? Is it vibranium? Tony's face changed instantly. Although Tony was not as good at playing with vibranium as a little princess, he knew a thing or two about it. After all, the Mark IV anti-steel armor was made of an alloy mixed with vibranium. Beast. King. Fist. The next second, I saw Buggy punched out fiercely. The energy accumulated in the metal arm by the energy pulse cannon was immediately punched out by Buggy. But the fist shadow was like a beast head, roaring towards Tony, and its momentum even faintly surpassed Tony's previous pulse cannon. Are you kidding? Author. I report. Someone is cheating here. Tony shouted. Just as Tony was about to fly away, the demon god armor suddenly couldn't move. Oh no, too many array patterns were carved at once, and the connection between the array patterns was not handled well, and the magic arrays conflicted with each other. Damn it! Tony hated in his heart. Seeing that the phantom of the beast head was about to hit Tony, the tail transformed from the ghost shield behind Tony moved again. It suddenly became longer and thicker, and then like a whip, it carried the beam of energy weapons that it had absorbed before and whipped towards the phantom of the beast head. Pa! The two powerful energies collided with each other, and instantly set off a sonic boom. The invisible energy shock wave made the surrounding air spread out like waves with waves. Tony, your armor doesn't seem to work. I saved you twice with one move, shouldn't you thank me? Behind him, Marfa, who was floating on the side watching the show, said. Your move is very good, teach it to me later, I want to carve it into the array. Tony ignored Marfa's sarcasm and instead focused on the ghost shield. How? Want to learn my ability? You should give up the devil and follow the Tao first. Buzz. Just as Marfa was talking, 13 motorcycles rushed towards the White House with 13 smoke and dust. Guys. Great harvest. I didn't expect that we could catch a disobedient child by the way. Steve's voice reached everyone from a distance. However, the leading motorcycle threw a shield towards Marfa from 800 meters away. As expected of Captain America, science has never been close to him. At such a long distance, the shield still came with unabated force, and it came straight to Marfa's face with bursts of air-breaking sounds. And what about Marfa? Seeing that the main person was almost there, a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. The Ouija stick immediately appeared in his hand, and Marfa threw it out like Steve. Under the control of telekinesis, the Ouija stick thrown by Marfa immediately began to rotate like a propeller. Duong. The shield and stick hit each other, like a gong, and the sound resounded throughout the White House square. However, Steve's shield returned to the original path, while Marfa's Ouija stick fell to the ground. Marfa. Newton, aren't you going to come out and protest? Well, although Newton didn't come out, Marfa had telekinesis after all. Under the control of telekinesis, the Ouija stick actually flew up again as if it violated the laws of mechanics. This time, the target of the attack was no longer Steve, but Bucky, who had used the Beast King fist on Tony before. Bucky couldn't react to this sudden change. What's more, Bucky had known Marfa's plan for a long time. So when he saw the Ouija stick attacking his face, Bucky didn't even try to dodge and just took the stick with his face. Kala. The mask shattered, revealing Bucky's true face. Steve saw the appearance of the gangster clearly and immediately lost his composure. Bucky. Steve shouted. At the same time, Tony also shouted. Murderer. Give me your life. Chapter 296 Captain Wu Wei. If Tony was still not completely sure just by looking at Bucky's mechanical arm, then combined with Bucky's appearance, Tony Stark was already certain that the person in front of him was the murderer who killed his parents. A wise businessman always has two preparations. Isn't there something wrong with the array disc made of Euro metal and fine gold? It doesn't matter, there is a spare. Although the spare array disc does not have Euro metal as a magic absorption, conduction and amplification device, it can only reduce the magic effect at best. Now that the murderer is in front of him, Tony can't care about anything else. He immediately took out the array disc hidden in the watch, and then, without saying a word, replaced the one on the original belt. It was said that it was too late, and before Tony fell to the ground because of losing the magic armor was dressed again. The spare array disk is a spare array disk after all. For the stability of the array disk, Tony did not carve many magic arrays on it. This has led to a significant decrease in the types of magic that Tony can cast. Scarlet Chain. Swish. 2 energy whips were seen, one on the left and one on the right, forming a pincer attack, and a red light suddenly shot out. The target was undoubtedly Bucky at the window. How could it be? Bucky is still alive. Didn't he fall off the cliff? And he still looks like a young man like me. Looking at Bucky, Steve was overwhelmed with emotions. Don't do anything stupid before I come back. How could it be? You have done all the stupid things. The scene when they parted at the Stark Industrial Expo seemed to reappear in front of him. Bucky. Bucky. Murmuring to himself, Steve suddenly woke up from his memories, only to find that Tony's scarlet chain had already come close to Bucky. Yahoo! Steve shouted, as if he was afraid that Bucky would die directly because of Tony's attack. Hell! As expected of Captain America. What a double standard. Marfa's figure slowly floated down, mocking in his mouth. What are you talking about? You are just a wanted criminal of S.H.I.E.L.D. What position and qualifications do you have to speak in front of me? Steve said with a tense expression. Wanted criminal? Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Marfa laughed up to the sky. Then let me tell you why I became a wanted criminal. Although villains die because of talking too much, it depends on the target, right? Facing Captain 55, even if Marfa lets him use both hands, it's 55 anyway. Can he break the character setting? Did you know that Nick Fury secretly studied the cosmic cube behind your back and used it to make the same energy weapon as Red Skull? Open your eyes and take a good look. Marfa pointed to the surrounding buildings destroyed by energy weapons and the energy beams that were constantly shooting out of the White House building. Hearing this, Steve paused and glanced around. Immediately, his expression became solemn. Regardless of whether these weapons are Nick Fury's masterpieces, the mere existence of these weapons is a disaster. Steve has not forgotten how many people these weapons killed when he led the Howling Commandos to break through the Hydra strongholds. Impossible. S.H.I.E.L.D. is the guardian of justice, and Nick Fury has worked hard to build the Avengers. Even if these weapons appear, how can you say that they are his masterpieces? Steve argued. Marfa didn't say much, and directly threw the information about S.H.I.E.L.D.'s research on the Cosmic Cube to Steve. After taking the information, Steve took a rough look and was shocked. Maybe someone is researching this without telling him, and you have betrayed S.H.I.E.L.D. How can I know the authenticity of your information? Steve tried to find an excuse for himself. Me? Betray S.H.I.E.L.D.? Did Nick Fury tell you why I betrayed S.H.I.E.L.D.? Marfa asked. This. In fact, Steve didn't believe Marfa's betrayal at first. After all, during the Battle of New York, Marfa was his temporary comrade-in-arms. But the Battle of New York was already full of doubts, not to mention that Steve was a soldier. The nature of a soldier is obedience. Unconditional obedience to the instructions of superiors. Of course, in this regard, Steve was not qualified. He violated military regulations several times for Bucky. Military regulations are valuable, but justice is more valuable. If it is for the sake of a friend, both can be abandoned. This is the true portrayal of Captain America. Then why did you betray S.H.I.E.L.D.? With your strength, you can benefit more people. Steve said. Because I discovered Nick Fury's ambition. At the beginning, Nick Fury intercepted the Hulk Bruce Banner from General Ross. As a condition, my S.H.I.E.L.D. was leased to General Ross. From General Ross, I learned about the horror of the Hulk. I believe you have also seen this during the Battle of New York. Marfa said lightly. Anyway, General Ross is dead, and there is no evidence. How can it be said that it is not his business? Can Captain Woo-Wicke still bring General Ross out of the dirt? Yes, the Hulk's strength is indeed terrifying. I have also heard a little about your being rented. Steve nodded, agreeing with what Marfa said. General Ross has been working on the Hulk before, trying to build a Hulk army. So, may I ask, why does Nick Fury want to control the Hulk in his own hands? At the army base, I met Dr. Samuel Stern, the friend of the Hulk, Bruce Banner. He hopes that I can rescue his friend and prevent Dr. Banner from becoming the root of the war. Have you ever thought about how destructive a Hulk army would be? Was it wrong for me to rescue him from S.H.I.E.L.D.? Dr. Banner is just like you, an individual, a real person, not a tool used by ambitious people. He longs for freedom, love, and hates war. I asked myself that I did nothing wrong. So what kind of person would think I was wrong? Marfa asked back. Steve? What he said makes sense, and I am speechless. Steve thought secretly in his heart. Bang! At this time, Tony finally suppressed Bucky after some effort. In terms of close combat ability, there is no doubt that Tony, a half-baked magician, is no match for Bucky. But Tony is really good. Jarvis can analyze Bucky's attack movements and offensive habits, and give Tony the best response plan. In addition, Tony can fly, combined with Kamartaj's magic and pulse cannon. Even if Bucky has a mechanical arm that Marfa spent a lot of money to let Ivan modify for Bucky, he still falls into a disadvantage. It must be said that being able to fly is amazing. Bucky. Seeing his friend being pressed to the ground by Tony, Steve felt so distressed. He didn't care about Marfa, and immediately wanted to rush forward to save Bucky. Shinra. Tensei. Kick and wave. Marfa waved his hand casually, and a strong repulsive force instantly swept out from Marfa's hand. Steve was not careful for a moment, and was immediately flipped dozens of meters away. If it weren't for the protection of the shield, I'm afraid this one hit would be enough to make him drink a pot. What are you doing? I will investigate your matter myself. Let's stop here today. Steve stood up, dusted off the dust, and rushed towards Bucky again. Shinra. Tensei. Are you done yet? I said, I won't fight you anymore. Steve got up again, and his voice was full of energy. It was obvious that he was not injured. You are worthy of being the captain of the 50-50 team. Marfa murmured in his heart. Didn't you just talk about justice and wanted to punish me? Do you know that the Bucky you mentioned killed your friend Howard Stark and his wife, causing Tony to become an orphan, and now he's holding the President of the United States hostage? You want to save such a heinous person? Where is your justice? Where is your honor? Don't forget, you are Captain America. Now you are going to save the sinners of the United States. Marfa scolded. No. Impossible. Bucky is not that kind of person. There must be a reason, there must be. Guys, stop him for me. Obviously, Bucky's position in Steve's heart is much more important than the American flag on his uniform and the lives of Howard and his wife. After calling the 13 Electric Warriors, Steve immediately rushed towards Tony again. It's done. Seeing that it was done, Marfa was very happy. Marfa never thought of persuading Steve to become his own man, but if he could make him feel resentful towards Black Sauce Egg, that would be enough. For now, Captain Wu-Wei is still useful, and killing him will not benefit Marfa. Of course, the most important thing is that Captain America plays a vital role in the entire MCU. If Captain America dies too early, it will inevitably cause a counterattack from the Marvel World Consciousness. Whether the legendary World Consciousness can save Marfa at that time is another matter. With Steve's joining, the situation quickly reversed. After all, Wu-Wei is not just talk. Steve is equal to Tony, plus Bucky and a group of Hydra agents. Tony soon fell into a disadvantage. And what about Marfa? Of course, she was acting with 12 lightning warriors. They are all on the same side, why fight to the death? There was a soulfire symbol on this side and 12 lightning bolts on the other side. Explosions came one after another. With just one confrontation, most of the White House collapsed directly. But what about people? Nothing happened. Loud thunder, little rain, who wouldn't do that? Chapter 297 Big Fish appears. How loud was the battle between Marfa and the 12 Electric Warriors? It was like a mine opening. The explosion was so loud that it could be heard clearly throughout Washington. The White House, the center of the battlefield, was naturally the first to be hit. Damn it. The president sat up from the ruins, touched his head that was swollen by Bucky, and cursed. But when he saw the surroundings clearly, he was no longer as calm and composed as before. Where is the building? Where is the room? Where is the office? Who am I? Where am I? What am I doing? As far as the eye can see, the ground is in ruins, and there are broken walls and ruins everywhere. What's going on? After a moment of confusion, the president soon set his sights on two battlefields not far away. But Tony Stark was fighting with 15 gangsters who attacked the White House earlier and the man who knocked him unconscious. The most puzzling thing is that Captain America, Steve Rogers, is actually on the side of the gangsters. Question mark? The black man's question mark face passed by. What the hell? Mr. President, you're awake. That's great. Seeing a person standing up shakily in the ruins, the captain of the White House Guard immediately rushed forward to check. Quick. Tell me, What happened? Mr. President endured the pain in his head and the faint dizziness and asked. It's Tony Stark. He and Marfa Maximoff came to rescue you. They could have easily defeated the gangsters. But, the captain of the White House Guard said hesitantly. As the personal bodyguard of the President of the United States, he naturally learned a lot of secrets from the President, including Marfa's identity. But until now, he couldn't believe his eyes. What a joke. That's Captain America. Over the past few decades, Captain America has long become the spiritual symbol of the United States, loyal, upright, brave. Whether in the army or in school, Captain America has a very high status. But now? But what? Are you hiding something from me? The president frowned, obviously dissatisfied with a hesitant look of the captain of the White House Guard. But later, Captain America joined the battle with 12 superpowers. Not only did they not help Mr. Stark deal with the gangsters, they also joined forces with the gangsters to deal with Mr. Stark and Major General Maximoff. The captain of the White House Guard reported truthfully. What? Explain it to me. Are you saying that Captain America is in cahoots with the gangsters? The president was instantly upset when he heard this. He grabbed the captain of the guard by the shoulders and asked in disbelief. I'm afraid so. The captain of the guard said in a low voice. After all, this matter is too shocking. You must know what the 4 words Captain America mean to the whole of America. And now, what he has done is equivalent to treason. Everyone present, including the president, grew up listening to the legendary story of Captain America. This feeling of faith collapse, no matter who it is, I am afraid it is difficult to accept for a while. After all, he is the president, and he is naturally receptive to it. Since the matter is done, it is no longer important whether Captain America is good or evil. What he should care about most is the war situation. First of all, the White House has been destroyed, and it was destroyed by gangsters like Captain America. This is equivalent to a big joke in the international community. For now, only by successfully taking down Captain America can America regain some face. Secondly, it is impossible to mobilize the army in a short time. If Tony and Marfa are defeated, it means that as the president, he will be in danger again. What? Evacuate? Absolutely not. From the perspective of the situation, although the economic losses this time are far less than the Battle of New York, in terms of political significance, this time is no less than the Battle of New York, and even more. If he, as the head of a country, runs away at this time, how will the world view him, and how will the American people view him? Forget re-election, it's good enough that they didn't die. Send a team to protect me, and everyone else, go out to help Major General Maximoff and Tony Stark. We must win this battle. Do you understand? The fire in Mr. President's eyes was burning, as if it was about to burst out at any time. There is no way out. Glancing at the 2 battlefields again, Mr. President felt his blood pressure soaring. Tony Stark, you're a waste, the dignified Iron Man, was actually suppressed by 17 people. Is it okay? Come on. Look at the other side. Good guy. Marfa was fighting back and forth with 12 people. It's important that Tony's opponent only has 2 superpowers, and Marfa? There are 12. In comparison, the fight on Marfa's side is obviously more intense. Didn't you see the thunder and lightning and talismans all over the sky? Didn't you see that the ground under them was scraped for more than 5 meters? I didn't see the White House. As if he had thought of something, the president felt his heart aching like a knife. Tony. Come on. Defeat the gangsters, defeat Captain America. In the future, the government's orders will be given priority to Stark Industries. Come on. The hope of the whole United States is pinned on you. The president shouted. He immediately whispered to the captain of the guard beside him, quick. Protect me. Protect me. Guard captain, Tony, acute grave, Steve. Listen. What the hell is he talking about? Defeat Captain America. The hope of the whole United States. Damn it. How did I become a villain? But at this moment, a Quinjet fighter approached at a high speed and soon hovered above the ruins. The next second, more than 30 armed soldiers with the same equipment and appearance slid down the ropes from the fighter like dumplings. There is no doubt that this is the separatist who just came from Georgia, Emil Bronsky. As soon as he landed, all the Bronskys walked towards the president. Fuck. This is a rebellion. The president was horrified and his whole body was not calm. However, the next second, all the Bronskys saluted the president. For America. Obviously, Bronski was expressing his attitude. Unlike Steve, although both of them were military, Captain America was decades ago. Although he still has the honor of being a soldier, he actually does not have a strong sense of belonging to this era. Especially in his era, there was a dance waiting for him. Therefore, he is loyal to the United States, the world, peace, and justice. But what about Bronski? He does not have the bizarre and bumpy experience of Captain America. Although he is already a member of the Avengers, he is essentially loyal to the contemporary United States, to Congress, and to the President of the United States. Good. The actors are all here. Looking at Bronski landing on the battlefield, Marfa whispered to herself. Adam, can you confirm which one is the real one? Or can you confirm whether the real one is there? Marfa asked. Sorry, Master, each clone of the Splinter Man is real. Rather than clones, it is more like an existence between clones and clones. It is almost impossible to tell which one is the real one physically. Adam analyzed. Physically? Marfa quickly caught the key words Adam said. It is not possible physically, that is to say, it is possible metaphysically. After all, the other party is just a clone anyway, and after all, they still share the soul. Otherwise, it is impossible to achieve perfect unified command, and it is impossible to absolutely guarantee that the clone will not betray. It's a pity that I don't know the move of Ancient One to directly shoot out the soul. Otherwise, wouldn't it be enough to just shoot them one by one? Judging from Bronski's loyalty to the United States, this operation involves the safety and face of the entire United States, so it is bound to come out in full force, and it is highly likely that a single clone will not be sent. In other words, there should be a real person among the people present. Can you take care of all the Bronskis? Marfa asked the Electric Warriors quietly. Marfa was now on the side of Bronski. If he attacked Bronski now, the show would not go on. As long as there is no water around. One of the Electric Warriors replied. Okay, you beat me to a place without water, I will pretend to be defeated and ask Tony for help. Marfa said again. Understood. Long live Hydra. Long live Hydra. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 298 Eliminate Pierce First. On the surface, Marfa and the Electric Warriors were bombing each other, but in fact, Adam had cut off the water supply around the White House. At the same time, the battlefield between the two also turned to the side without the pool. Oh my god. Marfa suddenly screamed, and the whole person was directly beaten into the ruins by the Electric Warriors. Hulcha! Hulcha! Seeing this, the Electric Warriors immediately threw lightning and threw it towards the place where Marfa fell like crazy. Fuck. What is amazing is that the first person to be shocked by Marfa's defeat was not Tony Stark or Steve Rogers. Instead, it was the president who was trembling and watching the battle. If you ask who cares most about this battle, it is undoubtedly him. After all, if they win, they can not only save the face of the United States, but also relieve their worries. If they lose, then the United States will become a laughingstock of the world, and he himself will be imprisoned. Bronski. Bronski. Quick. Quick. Help Major General Maximov first, help him first. Before Marfa could ask for help, the president, his teammate, shouted first. But, understood. After a slight hesitation, Bronski finally agreed to the president's order. Although he wanted to participate in the battle on the other side more. First of all, as a soldier king, Bronski wanted to compete with Steve. Especially after Steve lost his hammer, this idea became stronger. Secondly, as a friend, Bronski couldn't bear to see Steve make mistakes again and again. You know, the other party is attacking the White House. In ancient times, it would not be too much to sentence a whole clan to death. If Steve could be persuaded to change his mind during the battle, then at most he could use his own merits to save the Emperor to atone for his crime, and he would be able to give Steve a light sentence and leave him a way to live. As a lifelong enemy and a lifelong friend, Bronski has undoubtedly done his utmost. But what about now? If he helps Marfa, he will have nothing. But the president has spoken, can he not obey? Don't forget that Bronski is a captain in the US Army. As a soldier, the first thing to do is to obey the orders of his superiors. Now, Bronski only wants to deal with the Electric Warriors as soon as possible and end it all before everything gets worse. SHIELD, Trident Headquarters. If you want to say who is the most panicked at this time, it is undoubtedly Nick Fury. Captain America has betrayed his country. Can you believe this? Of course, as the king of agents, Nick Fury can understand Steve's thoughts when he sees Bucky's face through the video screen. But understanding does not mean agreement. No matter which side wins this battle, SHIELD is destined to be involved. Don't talk nonsense that the Avengers do not belong to SHIELD. Those words are more used to perfunctory the public, just like the Sokovia Accords incident in the original plot. In order to give an explanation to the public, if SHIELD still existed at that time, it could completely abandon the cart to save the general and push the Avengers out. But now the situation is different. Who among the top US officials doesn't know that the Avengers was formed by Nick Fury, the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., and Marfa Maximoff is also an investor. Now, Marfa has become a wanted criminal of S.H.I.E.L.D. In other words, he is no longer related to S.H.I.E.L.D. And this time Marfa's move made his position and attitude clear. Even if someone wants to drag Marfa into the water afterwards, Marfa can also say the director forced me to sponsor. To clear himself. When that time comes, any investment sponsorship agreement will not work. The top US officials will only believe what they see with their own eyes. And as a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, if the United States puts pressure on the United Nations at all costs, then what will be the fate of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is under the UN Security Council? It is no exaggeration to say that Captain America's actions have dragged the entire S.H.I.E.L.D. into the water. Especially those energy weapons. Isn't this the same as the batch in his warehouse? Conspiracy. This is definitely a conspiracy. Nick Fury figured everything out at the first time. First, he attacked the White House with the energy weapon he developed. After he knew that he would send Steve to attack, he let Bucky reveal his identity. Thus, Steve betrayed his country for Bucky. Without Steve, the Avengers lost their spiritual core. And without Steve, the Thunderbolts lost their leader and could not form a battle formation as before. In this way, it was equivalent to cutting off his left and right arms. More importantly, regardless of victory or defeat, S.H.I.E.L.D. would become the target of the United States. At that time, even if Steve took all the responsibility alone, he, the leader, would also be blamed. So insidious. The more Nick Fury thought about it, the more frightened he became. The more he thought about it, the more he felt something was wrong. Where did Bucky come from? Where did the energy weapon come from? In an instant, all the problems seemed to point directly to these two key factors. It's Marfa. It must be him. He broke Bucky's mask just now. As a former level 9 agent of SHIELD, his authority is second only to mine. If he is willing to investigate, it is not difficult to find out the existence of energy weapons. So, did he develop energy weapons by himself with the stolen information? No. Impossible. Without the energy crystal of the cosmic cube, he could not develop energy weapons even if he had the design drawings and related information. That is to say, the cosmic cube is in his hands, or he cooperated with the holder of the cosmic cube. Previously, the cosmic cube had been recovered by the Security Council. Is there something wrong with the Security Council? Or is there something wrong with some individuals in the Security Council? Who could it be? Alexander Pierce? Probably not. He was the one who promoted me to the position of director. If he had a problem, why did he promote me? First of all, excluding Pierce, who is it? He is indeed a black-brained egg. Just an analysis, he has guessed the truth of the matter. But he was wrong after all. Even he could not have thought that the one he first excluded was the one with the biggest problem. How much trust does Nick Fury have in Alexander Pierce? This can be seen in the original plot of Captain America 2. Nick Fury was a little bit unbelievable until Black Widow revealed the truth to him. Nick Fury was just a small agent at the bottom of SHIELD in those days. He was favored by Alexander Pierce, the director of SHIELD, because he saved the daughter of Alexander Pierce, the director of SHIELD in an incident. Since then, the two have been superiors and subordinates on the surface, but in fact they are both teachers and friends. Pierce treats Nick Fury like his own son. Not only does he teach him a lot, but he also establishes a correct outlook on life and values for Nick Fury, and promotes him all the way. In the end, he even directly passed the position of the director of SHIELD to Nick Fury. How can Nick Fury doubt such a person? Because of this, even if Pierce asked him for the cosmic cube, Nick Fury still gave it to him in the end. Of course, a large part of the reason is because of the subordinate relationship between S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Security Council. But more importantly, Nick Fury trusts Pierce. Otherwise, with Nick Fury's style of doing things, he would definitely use the crystal of the cosmic cube to make a fake Rubik's Cube to get the job done. Well, I felt that this was inappropriate at the beginning, and now it really happened. No. I have to tell Pierce about this. Let him help to verify it. We must not let the Security Council and S.H.I.E.L.D. fall into the hands of the mastermind behind the scenes. After a little thought, Nick Fury made up his mind immediately. Although this might drag his old leader into the water, this matter was too important and Nick Fury could not think about it anymore. Chapter 299 Pig Teammate Marfa. Major General Maximov. At the White House Square, the president risked his life to come to the pit where Marfa fell, and shouted with a worried look on his face. President. Mr. Cough cough. Hearing this, Marfa took out a bag of plasma from somewhere, smeared it on the corner of his mouth, and poured the rest in front of him. Then he put away the plasma bag, grabbed a handful of mud from the ground, and smeared it on his body. Major General. Upon learning that Marfa was still alive, the president immediately showed a face full of joy. It's good to be alive, it's good to be alive. After saying that, the president took out a test tube of about 100 milliliters from his arms with a painful look on his face. In the test tube, the golden liquid kept shaking like the legendary holy water. There is no doubt that this is the legendary solar water of the technology, and it is the kind that has not been diluted with Wahoo pure water. This thing is not sold to the outside world. Even as the leader of a country, he can only get 100 milliliters a year. In the past, the president could carry this potion with him as if it were a treasure. After all, people never know when an accident will happen, right? Carrying this potion with you is equivalent to having an extra life. No wonder the president feels so painful. For an ordinary person, the president would never be able to take out such a precious thing. But if it were Marfa, although it would be equally painful, he could barely accept it. First, legendary technology is Marfa's industry. If you have a good relationship with him, you may be able to get more potions in the future. Second, the current situation is tense. If Marfa can be revived with full blood, it may be able to turn the tide. Major General, don't talk. Drink this potion first. The president said immediately after helping Marfa up. Immediately, he saw him struggling to open the stopper of the test tube and pour the golden liquid into Marfa's mouth. Looking at Marfa's constantly moving throat, the president couldn't help swallowing. I heard that this medicine tastes pretty good. What a pity. It seems I have to wait another year. Thinking this in his heart, the president quietly waited for Marfa's changes. Changes. Obviously, his expectations were in vain. This is not a game that allows the president to see Marfa's health bar. Moreover, is Marfa injured? Of course not. Long before dealing with the Electric Warrior, Marfa had put on the Ghost Shield. With the energy output of the Electric Warrior, the energy tail of the Ghost Shield can easily deal with it. Now, after drinking a bottle of solar water, Marfa's mana is full. Ahem. I'm much better, thank you Mr. President. After a while, Marfa stood up and patted his chest and said, "It's worthy of the highest quality potion. I was vomiting blood just now, but now I can stand up." Seeing Marfa's performance, the president's idea of potion became stronger. It's okay. It's just a bottle of potion. You are the Major General of my America. Everything is for America. Although he felt pain in his heart, the president could not show it directly. Let's not talk about Marfa. Bronski's situation at this time is more dangerous than Tony. Don't look at him as a superpower who has been strengthened by the super soldier serum, and has nearly 30 clones to cooperate in the battle. But Bronski is not Steve after all, and it is impossible for him to have the special physique of Captain America. Although there are only 12 people on the opposite side, they are all elites trained by Hydra with a lot of money, plus the enhancement of the castrated version of the Electric Man serum, and Steve's training during this period. The two sides have only fought a few times, and Bronski has already sacrificed 5 people. Master, pay attention, the third Bronski on the left is different from the other Bronskis. At this time, Adam's voice sounded in Marfa's mind. Hearing this, Marfa immediately looked in the direction Adam said. As expected, The treatment of the third Bronski on the left and the other Bronskis is obviously different. Others fought on their own or formed battle formations to cooperate with each other. But that Bronski had two Bronskis protecting him on the left and right. On the surface, the three of them were cooperating with each other, but in fact, whenever the Lightning Warrior attacked, the two Bronskis on the left and right would always prioritize blocking the damage for the Bronski in the middle. Are you saying that is the real body? Marfa immediately discovered the clue and was convinced in his heart. No. Adam immediately denied it. Marfa. What's the matter? First tell me that Bronski is weird, and then say he is not the real body. Fortunately, Adam has no body, otherwise Marfa will definitely slap him on the head to let him understand what the Master's anger is. Master, please pay attention. Every time the Electric Warrior throws a high damage move, it is the Bronski on the left who blocks the middle Bronski. And every time the Electric Warrior uses a move with a wide coverage and low lethality, the Bronski on the right will block the damage for the middle one. That kind of damage can be blocked almost without injury with the insulating suit on Bronski. Don't you think it's strange? If the one in the middle is really the real body, then in order to ensure the continuous combat capability of the two bodyguards, the damage will be shared as equally as possible. After my analysis of their behavior and my own Bronski's personality, the probability that the middle Bronski is the real body is about 12%, while the probability that the right Bronski is the real body is as high as 85%. Good guy. As expected, he is the king of soldiers. He can think of this way of confusing the opponent with the fake and the real. If the Electric Warrior had the same idea as Marfa before, and attacked the one in the middle right away, there is no doubt that he would fall into Bronski's trap. So the question is, how can I tell this news to the Electric Warrior? Soon, an idea came to Marfa's mind. Bronski, I'm injured. You attack and I assist. I can put a shield on you to help you reduce the damage caused by the opponent. After saying that, Marfa immediately threw a talisman at a Bronski. Ghost Shield. The talisman shattered, and a small tail formed by energy immediately appeared behind one of the clones. At this time, an electric ball hit the clone of Bronski. The energy tail automatically protected and immediately absorbed the electric ball. Good, good, good. The president exclaimed when he saw it. Great, great, great. Bronski exclaimed when he saw it. Of course, in order to cover up, all Bronskis said this together. The next step was easy. Marfa moved around the scene with his body skills while constantly putting ghost shields on Bronski. Soon, except for the main body, all Bronskis had grown tails. The Electric Warriors were all confused. What's going on? Aren't we in the same group? If you're like this, what's the point of us fighting? The Electric Warriors had seen the power of Marfa's ghost shield before. If they wanted to break this trick, they had to output enough energy in an instant to burst the tail directly, or give up their superpowers and switch to close combat. Therefore, seeing that Marfa had put ghost shields on almost all Bronskis, the Electric Warriors wanted to curse. Oh. I'm out of talismans. Just when Bronski was relieved and felt that victory was at hand, Marfa shouted out this sentence inexplicably. Fuck you. Bronski panicked. What a joke. You put protective shields on all the clones, but the talismans were gone when it came to my original body. Isn't this equivalent to telling all the Electric Warriors to come and fight this one without a protective shield? Bronski, don't worry, I'll make talismans on the spot. Enough. After saying that, Marfa immediately took out a table from the storage backpack. Then he took out a stack of yellow paper. Finally, he even pretended to take out an inkstone, a brush, and a box of cinnabar. Bronski. Mr. President. Lightning Warrior. 3. If they still don't understand what's going on, they are really pigs. Guys, it's hard to fight the one with a tail. Let's kill the one without a tail first. Kill one if you kill one. One of the Lightning Warriors shouted. Yijigu. The Lightning Warriors all responded. Bronski, Greek letter sigma, Cyrillic letter dek, chapter 300 blind, blind. Instantly. Lightning flashed everywhere, thunder rumbled. Bronski wanted to run away, but could he outrun the lightning? And those clones wanted to block the damage for the original body, but could they block so much? What was it like to be hit by 100,000 volts of electricity from 12 Pikachus at the same time? Bronski experienced it firsthand in the next second. Smell. Really smell. The smell of being electrocuted from the inside out instantly filled the entire White House square. The kid next door was crying with envy, losing control of the original body, The remaining nearly 20 Bronskis also fell to the ground immediately, like a corpse without a soul, unable to move anymore. Ha ha ha. Finally killed him. I've been annoyed with him for a long time. He relied on his large number of people to show off his power all day long. Compared with our captain, he is nothing. One of the electric warriors said. Yes, yes. Compared with Captain America, he is nothing. The other electric warriors echoed. Steve in the distance, No, you actually killed Bronski. You bunch of bastards. The key is that you still want me to take the blame? Are you afraid that Mr. President doesn't know that I am the leader of the Thunder Special Forces? Steve was so annoyed. For a moment, even the strength of his attack was much weaker. Marfa. You bastard. Come and help me when the fight is almost over. I can't stand it anymore. At this time, Tony, who was beaten so hard that the demon armor could not maintain it, finally spoke. In fact, he wanted to ask for help a long time ago, but he looked around and didn't find Marfa. At that time, Marfa pretended to be injured and lay in the pit to watch the show. Jarvis. How long will Mark 10 take? If you don't come, you will have to change your boss. Tony said anxiously. Sir, please hold on a little longer. It will take time for Mark 10 to come from New York. Of course, if you still have strength to spare, you can open a portal, so that Mark 10 should be faster. Jarvis said. Why didn't you say it earlier? Why didn't you say it earlier? You should have said it earlier. Tony hated it so much. Little did he know that since Tony upgraded Jarvis' system, Jarvis has become more and more humane. Since individual consciousness has been strengthened, personal emotions are inevitable. Here comes the question. What are Jarvis' emotions? As an artificial intelligence that has been accompanying Tony all the way, Jarvis' only wish is to always be with Tony and always be needed by Tony. But what about recently? Tony's investment in magic has long gone far beyond technology. It just so happens that Jarvis is a complete layman in magic. There are very few places where he can help Tony. In fact, to some extent, he is not as good as Tony's soul split Anthony. This is like a pair of childhood sweethearts. Originally, the two had the same hobbies and lived together. But one day, the hobbies of one of them changed, and they could not talk to the other. Then how can the other not be jealous? Can he not be disappointed? Did Jarvis really not consider asking Tony to open a portal to speed up the support of Mark 10? Not really. Perhaps he wanted Tony to wake up and get back on the right track so that Jarvis could be needed by him again. Fortunately, Jarvis was not ignorant of the importance of things. Seeing that the time was almost right, he reminded Tony. It was indeed very difficult for Tony to fight against a combination of Captain America and Bucky, plus the few surviving agents. But as for escaping, swoosh! A burst of magic flames gushed out, and Tony's figure immediately flew to a height of 100 meters. Flying is awesome. In this position, the only thing that can hurt Tony is the energy weapons of those agents. With the help of Jarvis, Tony can easily dodge. But just when Tony was about to open the portal and take over the Mark X, which could be controlled by a computer and move automatically, Tony was stunned. Look! What did he see? Steve and Bucky actually started fighting each other. Tony. Oh. So you two are not in the same group. If I had known this, why would I have gotten involved? Wouldn't it be nice to just watch the fun and wait for the finishing blow? Bucky. Barnes. I'm Steve. Open your eyes and look carefully. I'm Steve. As he spoke, Captain America's fist immediately made close contact with Bucky's cheek. It seemed that only in this way could Bucky be awakened. However, it was not so easy for Bucky to wake up at this time. He shook his swollen head and immediately fought back with his fist. Seeing this scene, Marfa couldn't help but secretly give Bucky a thumbs up. As expected, love will disappear. Mr. President. Steve. Tony. The Electric Warriors. For a moment, everyone looked at Captain America and Bucky with a little sympathy. As an enhanced warrior, Steve's hearing is far from reaching the level of clairaudience. But Marfa's unreserved mumbling fell into his ears word for word. Steve's old face subconsciously turned red, and he didn't know what to do for a moment. Asshole, what nonsense are you talking about? I will tear your mouth apart sooner or later. Bang! While he was stunned, Bucky's iron fist hit Steve's abdomen, and the powerful force instantly knocked him away and deeply embedded in the bunker not far away. My Major General. Can you deal with the 12 electric warriors in front of you? What are you meddling in their affairs? Finally, the president on the side couldn't stand it anymore, and immediately said with an angry look, "Don't I want to? I'm a Taoist priest. Do you understand Taoist priests? Without the talisman, many of my abilities cannot be used. It's already good enough to be able to hold back 12 of them." Marfa immediately retorted. "Then the question is, does Marfa really have no talismans? If the president could open Marfa's storage backpack, he would certainly find that there are at least tens of thousands of amulets in his amulet automatic printer. That's not counting the special amulets made of special materials." Marfa said this, on the one hand, to make up for his previous lie to Bronski. On the other hand, it is also to reveal his weakness of not being good at protracted wars in front of others. Imagine if the president or Nick Fury were to launch a continuous consumption operation against Marfa due to his lack of talismans. What would the result be? He would definitely be completely fooled. After listening to Marfa's explanation, the president immediately shut up. Yes, many of Marfa's abilities are performed through talismans. Without talismans, he was asked to defeat 12 superpowers. Isn't this difficult for him? He has worked very hard to hold back the 12 people in front of him. Thinking of this, the president was immediately ashamed. What a good person. How could he accuse someone so carelessly? For a moment, if the situation did not allow it, Mr. President would have rushed forward, held Marfa's hands tightly, and said, "Comrade, you've worked hard. Not far away. Bucky, come with me. Don't make the same mistake again and again. Come with me, no matter where we are, rich or poor, it's just the two of us, and everything will be fine." Steve still persevered in admonishing Bucky. But Bucky's mind was completely in chaos at this time, so how could he listen to the advice of his best friend? No. What did I see? Blind. Marfa suddenly covered her eyes and made a look that she couldn't bear to look directly. There was no other reason. In order to stop Bucky, Steve actually saw the opportunity, flashed behind Bucky, and hugged him tightly. The power of pulling the plane with both hands was exerted to the extreme at this moment. And his legs were not idle at all. Years of combat have made Steve quite experienced in actual combat. His legs were slightly bent, and his knees exerted force, locking Bucky tightly in an instant. Unable to move his hands and feet, Bucky's first reaction was to bang his head back. But don't forget, Captain America is wearing a helmet, which is much better than the safety helmet of a battery car. It is obviously impossible to make him let go with just the force of a headbutt. In view of this, Bucky immediately bent over, and then followed up with a 3,600-degree rotation on the spot, trying to break free from Steve's restraints. For a moment, the picture was quite harmonious and loving. It was a bit like the tone of a stage play. Seeing this, Marfa couldn't help but twitch her mouth and put one hand on her forehead. "Emma. It's so ugly. I'm going blind, I need to wash my eyes." End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.